to be that if you've got it, you've got to stay away for 5 days, regardless of whether you're symptomatic or not.
So that's still the rule in schools,
yeah,
right?
If you get it, you've got to stay away for 5 days because they don't want the entire class getting it. But yeah, it's different from work now. I mean, you and I, like, we could be sitting here privately having come down with COVID on Saturday and thinking, I feel all right, I'm just going to keep working.
Well, there's no imperative to get tested.
Not that I have.
No, I can tell you, fighting fit.
When did you last have it? You've only had it once, haven't you?
Yes.
Same
as far as I know.
Well, that's a good point as far as I know, isn't it? Because there's plenty of people who've...
Well, what's the imperative to get tested? Unless... Well, I mean, that's why the clinics have shut down, I presume. Everyone's sort of been asking that question.
I guess for a lot of people, the imperative is, well, what age bracket, what underlying health conditions, or of the people closest to you, is there anyone in that category?
Yes.
You know,
and I suppose if you're in the at risk, you want to get the antivirals that exist now as quickly as possible. So you need to know. But
everyone I know who's taken those antivirals says it was like they went from 0 to 100 in terms of how they felt.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
But then it's almost like you hit the hangover point. I've heard people say that it says it sort of like, which I don't understand the biology of, but there's a sort of a kickback moment where it comes at you. Interesting commentary on COVID I read yesterday that I wish I could credit appropriately, but I thought it was an interesting point where and it goes to what you said about, COVID, that thing, with regard to the briefing in schools. It feels that increasingly on either side of what was traditionally the COVID debate, you're getting even more extreme opinions now. People that are saying, this is a tantamount to government-sponsored genocide at the moment because we're not locked down and wearing masks. Other people saying...
Like Karl Stefanovic, you mean?
Other people like, I'm talking about the vaccines and now saying, look, have you seen all the people with second heads? They're out there. The mainstream media is not saying. They're getting more and more extreme as a result of the fact that the vast majority of people just don't talk about it, don't notice and don't care. So to be heard at all, you have to be completely wild now because it's so far from the consciousness of the vast majority of people. Obviously not everyone, and the people in those camps you talked about before, for varying reasons, have different degrees of intensity about how closely they follow this. But
as a measure of to illustrate your point, either on air or out in the office when we're chatting, I reckon this is actually the first conversation you and I have had this year about the coronavirus.
It is.
And what are we, 5 weeks into the year?
2.5 minutes couldn't pass at one point in time between conversations about it.
You couldn't finish a sentence.
No.
It is interesting in the school setting. I reckon a lot of grandparents will be really pleased now that they can get back to the point where you can go to school assemblies, you can go to school plays, you can go to the end of year school dance and watch the kids do their presentations. If you've got older grandkids who are doing year 11 and 12, you can get along to speech night. Even school sport. Like, you couldn't stand outside watching school sport. Well, there was no school sport to watch for a while, but then they brought it back and there were numbers. As recently as December last year, we were still being told you can only have X number of people at events because of COVID. And it just got to the point where I know everyone was erring on the side of caution, and the people running the schools were sort of going, well, these are the broad guidelines, and this is what we've been told. But there's a lot of and it's hardly like when you look at what's happening in Turkey and you look at what's happening in Ukraine, it's hardly the end of the world. But it is a shock in a society that almost takes human togetherness for granted. That for pretty much 3 years, like my older son, his entire high school life has been defined by the coronavirus. Every single part of it.
He nailed it, didn't he?
Yeah,
he middled it.
Timing-wise, he just got there. And then, for our youngest kids, Sam's entire time at primary school has involved COVID. So all these things, and they're so aware of it. Like kids,
of course,
they're just totally across. Even like watching them when they cough in the pit of their elbows. It's amazing how life can change and things can become so normal so quickly.
They'll be 60 one day, and there'll be a generation of people who marked a bit like the people who lived through the Second World War, who have been better at being frugal or less wasteful because they had a defining period of life that involved things like rationing.
These will be the hygienic ones.
These will be but I bet that's a reality.
Yeah.
They'll say all these, young people today cough everywhere.
That's right.
You might want to try living through a pandemic and seeing what that's like. I'm sure
coughing to the pit of your elbow.
Defining moments of generations.
Use sanitizer.
Yeah, use sanitizer. Unbelievable. 12 after 6, we've got some news headlines coming up for you in just a moment.
I'm Peter Berkowitz from Berkowitz Furniture.
And I'm Justin, inviting you to rush and then relax at our summer sale.
Rush in and save up to 40% on some of Australia's most trusted furniture brands.
Then you can relax in the comfort and quality of great furniture.
From brands like IMG, Molmic, Stressless and more.
Rush into our summer sale. Ends soon.
Yep, rush now.
Relax later.
Berkowitz. We're not just a furniture store, we're a furniture family. Mile End Homemaker Centre.
We've all got that one piece of advice we wish we took sooner, like reading the instructions before trying to put together flat pack furniture. For many residents living at an FIVEAA retirement community, they'll tell you the same thing. If they had one piece of advice for their younger selves, it would be make the move to FIVEAA, because you'll wish you'd done it sooner. Come and see why for yourself. Search FIVEAA First Step to book your discovery tour today.
It's shaman time. If you're fitting out a workshop, your shed or your rooms around the home with extra storage, forget the flat pack. Those things are appalling.
Oh, yeah.
Go shaman shelving all the way.
Now, here's the thing we all love about Shaman shelving. It's all done for you. It's not flat pack, so you're not going to sit there for hours. I hate this. You can just count the minutes of your life that just disappear that you're never getting back when you're trying to find part A that goes into C and B, and there's one of those little baggies missing somewhere. No, thanks.
That happens more often than you'd think. I once put together a 4-shelf what's self-assemble mean? It's not self-assemble.
No.
It's not like a self-sourcing pudding. No. Like, it's not like
You
you look at
assemble.
it and like the woman in Bewitched, wiggle your nose and it puts itself together. I reckon I've lost 2 days of my life putting a shelf together once. And that was before I'd even heard of shaman shelving.
Well, this is it.
I wasn't living in Adelaide at the time. No shaman shelving in Sydney. Another reason to live in South Australia. Call shaman shelving. They'll come out, they'll give you a free measure and quote, then deliver and assemble it all for you.
Or if you do want to assemble it yourself, you're a masochist, or maybe you're just more handy than David and I, which is probably almost people.
Everyone listening.
Then if you want to do that, they'll give you all the support you need.
That's right. When it comes to storage solutions, everyone needs a little shaman in their life. 412 North East Road, Windsor Gardens, shamanshelving.com.au, or take a look on Facebook.
Introducing Nissan Future Value Business Plus, a new fleet finance solution for small to medium businesses offering competitive weekly repayments, including the cost of scheduled servicing for the loan term. Available now on the all-new Nissan Qashqai ST. Plan confidently for the road ahead with Nissan Future Value Business Plus. Visit nissan.com.au/business plus or contact your local Nissan dealer. Approved ABN registered small to medium fleet applicants of Nissan Financial Services. T's and C's and exclusions apply.
For more than 10 years, Brenton Raglas and Kate Collins have brought you all the big stories on 9 News.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings. This is FIVEAA Breakfast.
15 minutes after 6. If you'd like to be part of the program, we always love your contributions. 8223 You can text us on the Duttons text line. Duttons, a third-generation family-owned dealership with over 70 years' experience. Duttons, easy to do business with, or of course, the Foodland Supermarkets Facebook or YouTube live stream. News headlines on this Thursday, the 9th of February. The state government will contribute $200,000 to UNICEF to help in the recovery efforts. Peter Malinauskas says they also stand ready to send emergency services personnel if needed. This, of course, to Turkey. Last night, buildings across Adelaide were illuminated white as a further show of support. A probe into the shooting down of Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 has been suspended. 298 people, including 38 Australians, were killed when the commercial flight was shot down in 2014. Russian forces in eastern Ukraine have long been suspected of being behind the attack. AFP Assistant Commissioner David McLean is part of the international team investigating the shooting and says Russia continues to deny any involvement.
A total of 3 names of officers emerged who may have been involved in the downing of MH17. However, to date, the investigation has not been able to find any further confirmation of this. The Russian authorities have refused to answer any questions about the crew as they maintain that there was never any Russian Buktila in eastern Ukraine.
There were photos of the missiles being used on the ground at the time. Like, Charles Miranda I remember we spoke to Charles. Oh, was that when we were working together, or was that when it was still Jane and Mark?
2014. No, I wasn't here. I was in afternoons at that point.
That's right. It was Mark, Jane and I. But just the audacity of Russia. Like, they just shrug their shoulders and say, well, nothing to do with us.
Yeah. The Nursing Federation says plans by SA Pathology to cut its workforce are a slap in the face to nurses who've led the COVID testing response. They say they should be offering thank you payments, not redeployments. Up to 22 full-time equivalent nursing positions are set to go. The union's Elizabeth DeBar says it's extremely disappointing.
We find it completely appalling that instead of congratulating and thanking this important workforce, they are simply looking to kick them out the door. We do know that we have reassurances that they won't be without a job, but the reality is we believe that they do require these nurses.
The Queensland Government has found an unusual ally in former Prime Minister Scott Morrison. Mr Morrison's calling on the federal government to agree to a 50-50 funding split for the costs associated with the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games, something the state government is continuing to pressure the Commonwealth for. I can't believe this isn't worked out before you bid for the Games.
It's bizarre.
Imagine buying a house and saying, well, we'll sort out the finance later.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put up a bit and the bank will put up a bit, but don't worry about that.
How hard can it be?
Here's our bid.
Honey, I've done it. I bought the house. I put my hand in the air repeatedly. Got it for just 1.3 mil.
How does that meeting even happen? All right, the Premier meets up.
But Brian, we only have $80,000 in the bank. Well, don't sweat the small stuff.
Good news, Prime Minister, we've got the Olympics. Now, how the hell are we going to pay for this?
Which Olympics are we bidding for?
No, we got it. 2032. It's in
the Brisbane. That's right.
Brisbane. No, so this is the one we've got. We don't even know how we're going to fund it yet. Or the funding model is.
Are they going to need much new infrastructure in Queensland?
Not a whole lot, are they?
Well, they've got the exhibition centre, which was actually built originally from memory for the Commonwealth Games when they had the famous Matilda blinking kangaroo.
That's right. Maybe they can bring that back.
Haven't they redone Lang Park, where they play Origin?
Oh, yeah, it's outside my comfort zone. Lucy, good morning.
Good morning. While you guys were on your summer holidays, came out they are upgrading the Gabba for something $1 billion or more for the Olympics.
Surely not $1 billion.
Yes.
$1 billion upgrade of the Gabba. The Adelaide Oval upgrade was
Are they going to increase the capacity
less than 500 million
to 5,000 so it can accommodate all the people who want to watch the test being played there?
How much did you say the Adelaide Oval development was?
It was 500-ish. It was less than 500.
Okay, may not be
Matt
a billion,
Abraham knows.
but it is more than the Adelaide Oval new development.
Matt Abraham's got the amount tattooed on his arm.
Yeah, he's
with the words #NeverForget written underneath it.
Not a big sports guy, Matt. Thank you, Lucy. That's interesting. A proposal for a coal mine to be built near the Great Barrier Reef has been rejected by the federal government.
It sort of feels like one of those things, not really reading the room in 2023, saying, I'd like to open a coal mine next to the Great Barrier Reef.
The project's back. It's got one big name backer with a little bit of political history. Who do you reckon it might be?
Clive Palmer?
Yeah. Okay. There's only one name that sort of fits.
Yeah.
He was found to have caused irreversible damage, and if it went ahead, that was the sort of analysis that had been done. The UNESCO World Heritage listed site is currently considered to be highly vulnerable, albeit the reports are pretty good about the sea life growing back. The barrier reef's in a better condition than it's been in decades. 21 minutes after 6, let's have a look at the weather's going to be doing today. Today is going to be seriously hot, 36 degrees. Hottest place in Australia today, hottest main capital city. Top of 29 tomorrow, Saturday 26, Sunday 25, so it's a mild weekend. Then sunny again to start next week, 25 on Monday, 27 on Tuesday, and 33 on Wednesday. A few Dutton's texts coming in.
One here, comparing the Olympics to The Voice, a bit like The Voice, vote for it, we'll work it out later. It's someone who sounds like a no voter. One here, COVID is mutated. It's become a new strain called CC1, Climate Crisis 1. Thank you for that, Rob. The whole thing's a conspiracy, apparently.
822 3000. You can shoot us a Dutton's text if you like. Foodland Supermarkets Facebook and YouTube live stream. The sun is officially up in 21 minutes' time. 6:43 this morning. The sun will set at 8:18 p.m.
Tell you what, people are complaining about the lack of summer last week are certainly getting it returned in spades today, if summer's what you want. In fact, what will happen, there'll be people saying, Jesus, hot, it's too hot.
Too hot.
Too hot. A lot of Goldilocks people out there when it comes to the
I think
weather.
it's human nature. It's always what you don't have.
That's not a reference to you, by the way, Will.
No, that's me. No, it's no, not making bones about it. I generally complain a lot about the weather.
It's currently almost 19.
Magnificent.
So there you go.
Tom Wren's in the studio, so it's just heat up a little bit in here. Gliderol Garage Stores adding strength, safety and style to South Australian homes for over 40 years. Gliderol.com.au. Morning, Rennie.
Morning, boys. Will, I know I'm preaching to the converted here. Dave, I think I'll get you on board. Massive moment yesterday in terms of world sport and what LeBron was able to achieve. And we might even have the moment, I think, where LeBron James surpassed the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the most ever points in the NBA.
LeBron James, a shot in history. And there it is! LeBron stands alone! The NBA's all-time scoring record now belongs to LeBron James.
Great call. Audio there, thanks to ESPN. I mean, LA was rocking. All the stars were there. Kareem was there. It was brilliant. A couple of things to me stood out. He'll get well past 40,000. Will this record be broken, which has stood for nearly 40 years again? And also, Will, just a few things. There was a great photo that someone took where everyone had their phones up like this, and those in the live stream, and so the place happening where you are, Will, no one's watching it live except for one bloke who sat there actually taking it in. It was the owner of Nike, I think, or the
He looked like he was in his 60s. I've seen the photo. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and he's the only one, and I applaud him for having, the sense to actually soak it in and say, I watched it and was, good luck to him.
It's a bit like when you take video of concerts, I reckon.
Yeah.
And I've done it.
Yeah.
Why do you want to watch it on your phone afterwards?
No one ever goes back and watches it.
Yeah, correct.
Well,
that
I think
was one thing.
People do it because they want to show I was there.
Yes.
So it's less about the rewatching of it later. It's more the I am on Instagram.
Correct.
That is LeBron James
point.
in front of me.
Absolutely. And the other thing that stood out for me, and we'll talk about LeBron's greatness, and you know all about this, and you're so well versed in the basketball world, but Anthony Davis, I mean, his reaction was amazing. So just before it happened, everyone's standing up, his teammates, he sits down and kind of looks like, I have absolutely no interest in
totally
this.
uninterested, didn't he?
It was bizarre.
And he played bizarre.
He was terrible.
He was shocking. There's something weird going on.
Something's going on.
Big stoush between Russell Westbrook and Darvin Ham, the coach of the Lakers, too, has emerged after that game. So that's beside the point. LeBron's the story. The thing I found most amazing about that, the record's the most amazing because the Kareem points record, I was just trying to think in an Australian context for our football fan listeners. I reckon it's a bit like someone telling you now today in 10 years someone's going to break Tony Lockett's goal scoring record. And you go, well, you can't. You can't kick that many goals. You can't kick that many goals and play for that long. It was like that. The Kareem record's always been seen like that. It will never be broken. So that's a huge moment. The most American thing happened ever in this game, though. And to everyone else who's not a basketball fan, I'll tell you this. It's an 82-game season, so not every individual game doesn't have the weight of a football game, all right? There's a bit of checking out sometimes, or players can't be bothered, or they went out the night before, and you can tell. They stopped the game. He scored in the third quarter.
And they stopped the game for 15 minutes.
They stopped the game mid-game for a ceremony to celebrate the fact
it's insane
that he'd scored the most points ever, to celebrate the individual in the team sport.
Yeah. They should have done that with Plugger last year.
Well, I was going to say.
Buddy Franklin.
Yeah. If that would be like...
Well, they did stop the game only by accident.
Yeah, well, that's right.
People stormed the ground. But could you imagine someone does break the Tony Lockett record and... out comes a podium. Yeah. The game stops halfway through.
Commissioner came out.
The commissioner came out. The former greats there to congratulate him. And the thing that, in the broader context of the season, that makes it even more crazy, it was a must-win game for the Lakers.
It was huge, and they lost.
They lost to Oklahoma City, who they have to beat twice. Sorry, they have to beat the next two times they play them because they're going to have the tiebreaker. For playoffs, if they're even making the playoffs, it's going to be between these sorts of teams. Must-win game. The game was a total sideshow to the LeBron experience.
I tell you,
the whole thing was just totally bizarre.
It's bizarre.
Someone who's become a big fan of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the last 2 days is Lucy, on account of his role as Captain Roger Murdoch in Flying High.
His acting career didn't last as long as his basketball career from Abdul-Jabbar.
He didn't look that impressed yesterday watching it. There was quite a few
He never
shots
does. That's kind of Kareem's.
That's his sort of shtick.
Yeah.
Extremely.
He's pretty old now, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
Like he's in his late 70s?
Yep, extremely intelligent man though, like fiercely intelligent.
Because Flying High
Razor
came
sharp.
out in, 1980, and it was pretty much his only memorable movie role. And that was at the end of his career, so he would have been about 35, 36.
The thing that made that particularly funny, and they sort of allude to it in one of the jokes in Flying High, is Kareem just was not this warm character. He didn't joke. He never wanted to be in the media. He didn't want to be a public face. If he did, he wanted to talk politics. Mm-hmm. He was a deep thinker, a religious person, someone who...
Was he like Muhammad Ali? Did he convert to Islam?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
As Muslims say, revert. They don't say
That's
convert,
right.
they say
So
revert. They believe everyone is Islamic, whether they know it or not.
He was in that camp. So him appearing in Flying High
like Muhammad Ali
was a bit like... Well, but Muhammad Ali was this big, larger-than-life personality that loved the cameras and loved talking.
Yeah, sure.
Kareem hated all that stuff.
Yeah.
And him being in Flying High is utterly...
to Ali.
Yeah, that's right. He was Lou Alcindor, I think, to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Right. Okay.
But, yeah, so that was bizarre. And, yeah, it sort of explains why yesterday he was kind of...
He was good though, wasn't he? The way he passed the ball to him, as if
lovely moment,
nice legacy moment. It goes from me to you, passing of the baton, and
completely.
And you're right about Josh Giddey. I mean, the OKC youngest team in NBA, they could be scary. They don't even have their number 2 pick playing at the moment, who could be generational talent. So big tick to them. But it was all about LeBron. Well done, but very strange set of circumstances.
It was so American.
So American.
It would never happen here.
Yep.
I'd like to think.
Yeah.
Good on you, Ren.
Thanks, boys.
Tom Wren, thanks to Gliderol Garage Doors, new Timberlook Native Series sectional doors, gliderol.com.au.
Brunella Mazda 2022 plate clearance is on now. Incredible deals across the entire range. And vehicles in stock ready for immediate delivery. Get in quick and don't miss the 2022 plate clearance. Only at Brunella Mazda.
LBD 322-736.
If you were on North Terrace today, you might have passed by Samri, the cheese grater. Great things are happening right here in Adelaide. Bright minds are researching diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and preterm birth, to name a few. Every day and late into the night, we are working hard. If the lights are on, so are our bright minds. At Samri, we don't grate cheese. We do great things. Follow our progress at samri.org.au.
Shane here from Adelaide Exposed Concrete. Our first radio ad campaign, straight off the bat, I think the team here killed it with a great commercial, and we got recognised straight away, which lifted our branding. My advice to people is to do it. It does work. It just takes a little bit of time, and you've got to be willing to understand that not everything happens straight away. But once it starts to work, it's a fantastic experience. To hear people say, I heard your ad on the radio. I heard you on the radio today, oh, your ad's so funny, oh, you guys are terrific. You know, all these great comments that our company gets is really based off the ads that we've put out in FIVEAA over the last 6 to 12 months.
To get your message out there and grow your business, visit fiveaa.com.au and hit the Advertise With Us link.
The Red Hot Summer Tour 2023 stars Paul Kelly,
I've done all the dumb things.
Bernard Fanning,
I just want to wish you
and Missy Higgins. It's an unprecedented lineup of Aussie music icons, including Mark Seymour, Vicar and Linda, Ian Moss and Troy Cassadaly. At the magnificent Kent Reserve, Victor Harbour, Saturday, March 11. Get your tickets now from redhotsummertour.com.au.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Sunny and 36 today with the 6:30 news. I'm Mel Usher.
Keep your body in shape with Physio Extra clinical Pilates and group exercise classes. PhysioExtra.com.
The race against the clock continues for rescue crews in Turkey and Syria who are still finding people trapped beneath rubble following this week's earthquakes. Brett McLeod says the death toll is nearing 12,000.
As the increasingly desperate search for survivors continues, it's now clear the twin earthquakes that struck earlier this week are the deadliest in Turkey since 1999, when 17,000 people died, and the toll here is certain to keep rising. The World Health Organization estimates the final figure will be closer to 20,000 deaths. months. President Erdogan has visited some of the worst-hit areas in the epicentre amid criticisms of slow government response to the disaster. He said it's not possible to prepare for a disaster on this scale and told people not to listen to provocateurs.
There are fears for 4 Australians who are missing in the disaster zone. A team of global investigators has suspended its probe into the downing of MH17 by a Russian missile. 298 people were killed when the Malaysia Airlines flight was shot down in 2014. Last year, a Dutch court found 2 former Russian intelligence agents and a Ukrainian separatist guilty of murder. Now investigators say their findings are insufficient for further prosecutions. Deputy Chief Prosecutor Digna von Buchela says a report will be released, but some information will be withheld to allow for future investigations or prosecutions.
We will not be mentioning any individuals by name except for public figures or in cases where the relevant names have already been made public. All of them should be considered innocent until a court finds that the reverse has been proven.
Shocking footage has emerged of yet another violent schoolyard attack at Whyalla Secondary College. Video shows a 15-year-old boy punching a classmate as other students watch and film. Police have charged the teenager with assault and he'll face court next month. It's just one of a string of violent attacks at the school in recent weeks. The Education Union's Andrew Gold says some students are driven by social media.
It does seem to be a motivation for some students to record this sort of footage and to elevate their social status according to their social media status.
The government says it's fast-tracking a mobile phone ban at the school in the hope of reducing violence. Tropical cyclone Gabrielle is expected to intensify in the coming days, bringing potentially dangerous conditions to Queensland's coastline. While it's not likely to make landfall, strong winds and large surf is possible. Volunteer Marine Rescue's Graham Kingston says it's not suitable for recreational boating.
Best thing is to follow the forecast closely and, of course, not for recreational boating, but, of course, if there are vessels transiting in strong winds, some vessels can handle it, but if people are not experienced, it would be advisable that they seek shelter because cyclones or tropical lows can be unpredictable.
There are concerns a new US trend in which cinema ticket prices are based on seat location could be adopted here. America's biggest cinema chain has made the change, which sees a premium paid to sit in the middle row, while the seats up front are cheaper. 3 pricing tiers are offered, and operators say it brings cinemas into line with other entertainment venues. However, critics say it's discriminatory and a protest is planned at the upcoming Oscars. And Pink has announced an Australian tour next year. She'll play Adelaide Oval on February 27. Tickets go on sale next week. Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Gliderall Garage Doors, adding strength, safety and style to South Australian homes for over 40 years. Gliderall.com.au.
And it's all about the cricket today, Tom Wren.
Yeah, looking forward to it as well, Mel. Pat Cummins says he's going to wait until the toss to announce Australia's side to play India. That's in this afternoon's first test against the home side. Unusual pitch preparations in Nagpur is likely to favour spinners and right-handed batsmen. The Aussie skipper says Victorian spinner Todd Murphy is ready if he's selected to debut.
He's been bowling beautifully in the nets over here. Started really well in for Victorian first class cricket, and if he gets the nod, you've got Nathan Lyon down the other end that he can work with, and he's ready.
Meantime, the women's team's preparations for the 2020 World Cup in South Africa have ended with a 3-wicket loss to Ireland. Let's go to football. Things are looking good at Alberton, with the club not reporting any major long-term injuries aside from Jeremy Finlayson and Ollie Lord. The Power will hold an internal trial next Friday night. One game in the English Premier League this morning has just kicked off between Manchester United and Leeds. United needs a win to keep in touch with leaders Arsenal and cement its spot in the top 4, while Leeds needs a win to get out of the relegation zone. And Leeds has scored in the opening minute of that match at Old Trafford. And the Las Vegas Formula One Grand Prix could become an annual event, with local authorities giving the race down the iconic strip permission through until the year 2032. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Stay cool. Service your aircon at Automasters. And keep cool with Cool Now, Pay Later options.
36 today and sunny tomorrow 29, Saturday cloud clearing 26. Right now it's 18 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
She's a killer queen, got bad agility.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings. This is 5AA Breakfast.
23 minutes to 7. Police and weather shortly. Every Wednesday morning after 6:30. Sam Daddo's out on the road. Thursday. What day is it today? Thursday.
Thursday, Will. Get with the
Sorry,
program.
I'm losing track. Thursday
It's probably
mornings.
because you like work in the morning and the evening, so the day doesn't sort of stop.
I don't know.
Your cycle of focus is up and down too much.
It's a one I know, let alone what day it is, what my name is at the moment. Now,
So you're the busiest man in Australian journalism. That's what they keep saying in the advertiser.
Let's not say that.
Funny, isn't it? Because I've got 3 jobs and 4 children. Apparently I just sit around doing nothing. Don't miss the busiest man in Australian journalism and Dave's slack-ass Penberthy every morning on 5AA.
You're free to take the moniker. Sam Daddo is busy this morning. He's out and about. That's what we're going to do with him on Thursdays after 6:30. Send him out to report on what's taking place around Adelaide. Morning, Sam.
Morning, guys. I've made the arduous journey down to the riverbank. If you look on the Foodland Supermarket's live streams now, Brookie has put up a couple of videos and photos I've taken on the way. I don't know what Dominic Perrottet is on about, but Adelaide's not too bad at this time of the morning. But I'm out on the road and down here at Sky City for a reason, because Sky City tonight will be hosting Australia's longest running Queen tribute show. The Killer Queen Experience is headed to Adelaide. It's set to explode on stage for one night only, and that's tonight. So for the past 20 odd years, the Killer Queen Experience has been performing globally, but the group actually formed up in Brisbane. In the early days, they started playing at league clubs and RSL shows before their career took off, and they have now played more than 800 shows in over 10 countries. They're performing tonight at the District at Sky City, 8 p.m. The District, of course, is the venue inside Sky City. Sky City is the 10th largest employer, with employment of over 1,000 staff. The casino was originally constructed back in 1985, but underwent its latest and most grandest refurbishment back in 2019. So if you're looking for something to do tonight on a Thursday night, jump online to find tickets. They are only $40 for the 2-hour live show. Head to the District, skycity.com.au. But if Queen isn't your thing, and it might not be for many people, the Christie's Beach Side Food and Wine Festival is on Saturday from 4 till 9. This will tickle David's fancy. At Rotary Park in Christie's Beach, you can experience a selection of local wine and beer across the region, while indulging in a variety of food on offer. There's also market stalls, live music, cooking demonstrations, and a roving environment. Fun fact, Christie's Beach was named after Lambert Christie. He was born at Cape Jervis in 1858, and with his father managed the mail service to Kangaroo Island. 40 years later, Lambert Christie purchased a fine selection of farming land surrounding the Dalebrook homestead. Families worked nearby land, and eventually the area was built up over time, fellas.
Wow, I did not know about Lambert Christie.
I learned about 19 different things just then.
Yeah, it was just hit after punishing hit, Sam. Great work there on debut. Christie's Beach. I think we need to start talking about the Christie's Beach Renaissance. Now, there's a suburb that there's a lot of people who have never been there. I would probably stress that point. They sort of sneer about Christie's and look down their noses at it. I reckon the quality of the beach and the way the retail strip, the Esplanade, has changed so much in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I reckon it's probably one of the last suburbs where you could get a house within cooey of the beach that's like not like your neck of the woods, mate. Not like Semaphore. I reckon in relative terms, Christie's is a steal when it comes to wanting a bit of seaside living. It's a beautiful part of South Australia.
I agree. I'm just wondering. I bet
But everyone associates it with, road rage scenes at the commercial roundabout, or a meth raid, or it sort of it's got that wrongly. And Sue from Christie's Beach would probably back me up on this. I reckon Christie's has changed a lot for the good over the years, and it's now largely a beautiful part of South Australia.
Absolutely. 19 minutes to 7. Sam mentioned the history of the Post in the name of Christie's Beach. We're going to be talking about the future of Australia Post after 7 o'clock today with regard to their letter delivering division, which is...
They're in deep financial poop, aren't they?
Significantly under stress. Yeah, they posted a loss. And there's some vagaries around it, without wanting to get too much into it now. They're legislated to run as a business. They have to make money. Theoretically, they have to sustain themselves. Yet they've also got controls over how much they can charge for things like postage stamps. And right now, it's just not a sustainable business model.
Now, I had to buy a stamp send a quarterly BAS to our good friends at the Australian Taxation Office. A big shout out to our friends at the ATA on Monday, and it cost me $1.20. Is that what stamps cost now?
It's just gone up. So they were allowed to put it up by 10 cents. Went up from $1.10 to $1.20, and that's
I couldn't believe it.
I
thought stamps were still like 50 cents.
You know, in New Zealand they're like $3 or $4. In part because of the issue. Well, ours have kept artificially low because of they're trying to make the whole business model sustainable. It's just not. They're going to lose money, and you're potentially going to lose the 5-day-a-week letter service is what they're talking about. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Christie's Beach, David, take you through some of the recent sales down by the Esplanade. That's what you're saying, weren't you? You think it's still affordable?
I didn't mean on the Esplanade. I meant
near
did
you?
it.
Oh, okay. All right,
well, no, give us the sales. What have you got?
Recent 10th of October last year on the Esplanade, 1.695 million.
You're kidding me.
Christie's Beach, 5165. This is on the 15th of June last year. Esplanade, 1.61. 50 Beach Road. Beach Road. So it was, I think, a commercial property, but still 1.55. Davis Avenue, 1.52.
Okay, maybe
Dyson Road, 1.3.
We'll run with it's really nice, but maybe scrub the affordable bit. That's a stack of dough, isn't it?
It is. There's nothing within Cooey of the water that is not.
Maybe you need to look further
stupid.
afield. Maybe you need to live in Cape Jervis.
Yeah, I think if you're down...
Can you still get a bargain in Cape Jervis where you can look out over Backstairs Passage?
I'll look that one up for you next. We're going to check traffic first. Your mortgage-free life awaits with the Hospital Research Foundation Home Lottery. Visit homelottery.com.au.
Thanks, Will, and good morning. Good looking down the road today. Shouldn't have any hassles if you're about to jump in the car. A few roadworks, keep in mind today. Burst Watermain, Glen Osmond, that's Port Rush Road near Crossroads, speeds of 25. Bedford Park, she's a hive of activity there today. That's the Southern Expressway with works ramping up. 2 lanes closed and speeds reduced. Starting to get busy. South Road at Myling with cameras. Main North Road, Barathal, and South Terrace in the city. Don't forget Valentine's Day is on February 14. OTR has everything from flowers to chocolates and open 24/7. All your gifting needs sorted. What you need when you need it. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
For a unique take on everything happening in SA, join Matthew Abraham each Thursday with David and Will.
People give money to political parties for a couple of reasons. One is for influence and access, so that if you're a big donor, I'm pretty sure they'd take your phone call if you're a major donor.
Matthew Abraham, Thursday mornings from 7:30.
Some people just believe in the cause and they give money to a political party. They don't want anything back from that.
Only on Adelaide's 5AA.
100% Aussie Angus beef, melty cheese, chunky tomato relish, lettuce, and a nice slice of beetroot. Macca's Aussie Angus Deluxe. 2 words, my friends. Aussie as. Available after 10:30 a.m. for a limited time.
Love signs, baby.
This slowdown song is to remind you that you're now entering a school zone and will need to slow down. A safety message from the Australian Road Safety Foundation and Amy.
Gents, have you got the urge to pee again, even though you only just went? Caruso's Pee Less for Men relieves that annoying gotta pee again feeling and helps support healthy bladder and prostate function. So, if your need to pee all the time is getting in the way of enjoying life, try Caruso's Pee Less today. Caruso's Pee Less is made in Australia, comes with a money-back guarantee and is available from leading pharmacies and health food stores. Always read the label and follow the directions for use.
The mattress floor stock clearance is on now at Harvey Norman. All discontinued mattresses from the big brands must go. Now's the time to upgrade your mattress or ensemble. Our range includes the big name brands Sleepmaker, Sealy, Body Balance by AH Beard and Tempur. This is your last chance to buy a quality-made mattress or ensemble at an amazing price. All discontinued mattresses must go. The mattress floor stock clearance ends soon at Harvey Norman.
Patience pays off, especially if you've been holding out for a great deal on a new Volkswagen. Mawson Lakes Volkswagen is now receiving truckloads of new Volkswagens. Yes, they're coming. And they're available at amazing prices. Remember Mawson Lakes Volkswagen for servicing too, with next day servicing and free loan cars. Get a great deal on Volkswagen now. Don't dilly-dally, dawdle or delay. Mawson Lakes Volkswagen, just a short drive from the city.
For more than 10 years, Brenton Radless and Kate Collins have brought you all the big stories on 9 News.
It's a beautiful day.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
13 to 7, we'll talk weather in just a moment. A few Dutton's texts, though, coming through.
Great one here. Ask and you shall receive. We're just talking about what I've described as the Christie's Beach Renaissance. And Sue in Christie's Beach, who we mentioned within seconds, she was on the Dutton's text line with this observation. Guys, you're right. Christie's was largely a housing trust previously, so that probably gave it a bit of a rough reputation. But yes, Pembo, I agree. It has changed a lot over time. And she says there's some trashy little shacks on the Esplanade that are now worth millions. Well, Will did a bit of quick research, and while I was completely wrong, not for the first time either, about Christie's being affordable. I mean, it's affordable if you've got $1.3, $1.5 million in your bank account.
Yes.
Cape Jervis, place to go.
Cape Jervis, you're right. You can still pick up the odd bargain. Under 100 grand, some land down that way.
If you want water views, there's a block of land down there for sale for 97 grand.
Yeah, one just went recently.
And you get one of the best seafood experiences in the world is that little caravan on the road out of town on your left when you're heading back towards
Is that right? I've
Adelaide.
done it
It's a little family-run fishing shop, and in the shed, I can't remember the names of the people, but they're terrific. So the bloke's a fisherman, and his wife runs the shop, and they have like snap frozen gar fillets, whiting fillets, amazing squid. You just load up on it, and it's all cryovac last month's in the freezer, but just superb seafood.
Sounds fantastic. There you go. You could, if this radio thing doesn't work out, you could become a real estate agent for Cape Jervis.
What about that? Watch out, McGain's. Sold by McGain again.
Let's talk weather. Jenny Horvat, senior forecaster at the Bureau, joins us. Jenny, it's going to be warm. How hot are we going to get today?
Yeah, look, we're aiming for a top temperature of 36 degrees in the city for today, 37 out at Elizabeth, 35 for Glenelg, 34 for Noarlunga, 35 for Mount Barker. Currently 16.4 at our West Terrace Notapira observation site, and that pretty much is our minimum temperature at the moment. But yeah, as you mentioned, getting hot today. Will be short-lived though. Tomorrow we do have a trough moving through, so it's going to drop that temperature right down. It will be a hot night though. We are looking at a minimum temperature for Friday of 21 before that change moves through. So just depending on the timing, whether we're sort of like a 29 or it might even be just a little bit cooler if that comes in a little bit quicker. But it is essentially a dry change. Couldn't rule out a couple of spots, but we're not expecting anything too significant with that. It will leave us in a milder airstream in that sort of west-southwesterly airstream as we head into the weekend. So temperatures for the weekend looking at around 25 or 26 degrees. A little bit of cloud around probably in the mornings, and couldn't rule out again a little bit of light shower activity, most likely around the hills, but not too much in that as well. So essentially a dry weekend coming up. Looks like a sunny start for next week. Temperature again of around that 25, 26 degree mark, and then we're slowly on the rise as we head towards the middle of the week, looking at around 27 for Tuesday, 33 for Wednesday.
Beautiful stuff. Thank you for that, Jenny.
All right, let's head to SAPOL. Senior Constable Kimberly Broad joins us. Kimberly, there's been a fire at Port Adelaide.
Yeah, good morning. It was about 3:15 this morning. Police and fire crews were called to a business on St Vincent Street at Port Adelaide after a member of the public reported seeing a truck on fire. The MFS crews were quickly on scene and extinguished the fire, but initial information suggests the fire actually started on a jet ski and trailer, which then spread to the truck and also caused extensive damage to a second jet ski. Now, we've got fire cause investigators attending at the scene this morning to determine the fire's cause. So we're just asking if anybody saw anything suspicious around St Vincent Street at Port Adelaide this morning, about 3:15. If they could give us a call on the Crime Stoppers number 1800 333 000.
And further north, Kimberley, in Virginia, SAPOL have made quite a significant cannabis seizure.
Yeah, yesterday afternoon we had Northern District Police attend at a property on King Road at Virginia. They received information that cannabis plants were being grown there, so we've conducted a search of the property and discovered around 100 plants being grown hydroponically. Now, electricity was also being illegally diverted to the home to power the equipment which was used to maintain that cannabis crop. So there was a 38-year-old man from Parafield Gardens at the scene at the time. He's been arrested and charged with cultivating a commercial quantity of cannabis plants, and he'll be appearing in the Elizabeth Magistrates Court next month.
Thank you, Kimberly. Senior Constable Kimberly Broad from SAPOL. Interesting, that phrasing that Kimberly just used, because it goes to a text we got from Paul that I think is a really interesting one. Paul on the Dutton's text line says, the issue for Christie's Beach reputation is due to the local magistrates court being named as such, even though it's not actually in the suburb. Every day on the news bulletin you hear the line has been bailed to appear in the Christie's Beach Magistrates Court at a later date, which links every crime in the region to our great little suburb. I think that's a really good point by Paul.
Maybe there's an argument for renaming these courts. Like, why couldn't you call it the Southern District's Magistrates Court? Like, why why always tag it? So every time some Darrow from, Hackham or from Seaford or someone from Seacombe Heights, any of the southern suburbs, I mean, even some of the really flash ones could be somebody from the Esplanade at Port Wollonga has decided to go out and break the law and winds up in the Christie's Beach Magistrates Court.
Why does Christie's have to wear it?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I reckon you could say the same for, like, Port Adelaide Magistrates Court. Elizabeth has a Magistrates Court? I'm flying blind here.
I think it does.
Elizabeth Magistrates Court? Help us out, folks.
You always hear about the Port Adelaide one.
But
You definitely hear about Christie's Beach.
Yeah. Is there one in Elizabeth? I'm not sure. But maybe not. Maybe it's the Port Adelaide one that takes care of it. But no, it's a really good point, Paul. It's one for the people at the Courts Administration Authority to think about.
Good text on the Post as well here. Someone says, guys, just for interest, what's the salary of the CEO in Australian Post? Is it over $2 million? Can I also ask if Parcel Post has been separated from the Postal Division? Parcel Post is making a great profit. You're right. Parcel Post is still quite profitable, albeit its profits have declined in the last 12 months, and they now no longer can mask the dramatic fall in the profitability of the letterpost division, because that number is actually staggering at the moment. The total losses of the Post division are in the order of $189.7 million.
15 Frobisher Road, Elizabeth. That's where the Elizabeth Magistrates Court is. I was right. There you go.
All right, let's head to the US. Tim Lester is in Washington for 7 News and was witness to the State of the Union address from President Joe Biden yesterday. Tim Lester, good morning to you.
Morning, guys.
Tim, I've got to say, I was watching a bit of this last night. I like to watch the coverage on both Fox and Friends and then also the early morning program on CNN, just to find out what the left and the right of American politics are saying about the same topics. But the State of the Union address, to me, it looked like, regardless of the content, the thing that interested me more was the behaviour of the elected representatives. It seemed to be like a bit of a parable for the way people now behave on Twitter. Just heckling, name-calling, no politeness at all. It was just a mosh pit.
A rabble. And fascinating, because there's a few conclusions you can draw. One is the new Speaker of the House of Representatives, of course, now a Republican, so an enemy of Joe Biden, Kevin McCarthy, looked particularly uncomfortable at a couple of points with the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene and other of the more extreme Republicans were getting loud and boisterous during the president's speech, including calling him a liar outright. As well, though, in fairness to all parties, there were a few comments from, or particularly one with regard to winding back the American version of Medicare that was needling for Republicans, so it was infuriating for them to hear. So Joe Biden perhaps did contribute a bit.
Yeah, he did.
To some of the response he got. But was it polite? No, nothing like it. And the divide in American politics on display, and the problem for the Republicans, some of the fractures in their party room also well and truly on display.
Did he show his hand a bit, did you think, Tim, with regard to a potential looking for a second term, Joe Biden? Because, geez, I don't think that's particularly popular amongst his Democratic colleagues or indeed voters.
When you make the line, let's finish the job, sort of key line of your address, you're pretty well given the game up, haven't you? You're sticking around.
But what did you think, Tim, watching it? Like, I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw enough of it to think this guy doesn't sound like he's got enough fuel in the tank for another 5.5 years.
I think the thought of him at 86 as the US president's pretty challenging for Democrats, let alone for his for the sort of middle ground or Republicans that he might be trying to bring across. So no, I think it was tough. I mean, I think he was fairly sparky and in there. So in some ways, the fact that the hard right members in Congress were attacking him in the chamber didn't hurt him. I think he looked fairly lively to that, but I think generally there's a great deal of doubt in the American population as to whether they want him serving a second term simply because of his age. His record, you can debate, but his age, I think, is becoming right or wrong, a huge issue.
Tim, appreciate it. Thanks for your insight. Tim Lester in Washington, D.C. for the 7 News US Bureau. Last polling I saw had him amongst Democratic voters, 37% wanted him to run again. Just a staggeringly small number. I will
Did you see the footage of that woman that he met, that Tim just mentioned, Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia?
Standing up and heckling.
But did you see what she was wearing? She's wearing a white fur coat. She looked like, was it Cruella de Vil? What's she from? Is it 101 Dalmatians?
Yes, she did look a bit.
She was some cartoon
Mind
character.
you, this is what I hate. I just hate generally about politics these days because neither side has a mortgage on bad behaviour. We saw Nancy Pelosi do that stupid statement of ripping up Donald Trump's speech at the State of the Union previously.
Totally.
Just the sanctity of office doesn't exist anymore. Once upon a time, you just respected the office, even if you didn't agree with the person who occupied it. And now, unfortunately, that seems to be a sort of a quaint element of the past.
Thanks to Peter from Wallaroo. He rose to the challenge on the Dutton's text line, confirming it is a yes for the Elizabeth Magistrates Court. And go on here from Mickey, down south. Suggests let's change the Christie's Beach Magistrates Court name to the Mike Rann Honorary Discipline Centre. Go Panthers! Good one, Rick. Go Panthers!
I don't mind the idea of trying to come up with a new name for it to help out our good friends of Christie's Beach.
Well, let's do it for all three. What would you call Port Adelaide, Elizabeth, and Christie's Beach Magistrates Court?
Now, there's a danger this is going to stray into territory we can't.
How about the Port Power Magistrates Court? Would that work?
That'd be popular. We'll get Koshy on. I'm sure he'll sign off on that. Yeah, if you've got some alternate
there's plenty
names.
of Crows fans who've been through there too.
Not fair on these suburbs. Their reputations have been dragged through the mud.
Port Adelaide is absolutely stunning.
Port Adelaide's awesome at the moment.
What about La Popular Taqueria?
Sensational.
You ever been there?
Certainly have.
What about the American barbecue joint?
Low and Slow.
Low and Slow.
Been there a lot.
Yeah.
Carmine's. Port Adelaide's food scene's great.
Pirate Life.
Anyway, we've got to go to 588. Lucy's getting angry. We'll take you through some of these stories of the morning next.
The Southern Volkswagen 22-plate clearance is on now. Incredible deals across the range. And vehicles in stock ready for immediate delivery. Get in quick and don't miss the 22-plate clearance. Only at Southern Volkswagen.
LVD 152780.
We've all got that one piece of advice we wish we took sooner. Like reading the instructions before trying to put together flat pack furniture. For many residents living at an FIVEAA retirement community, they'll tell you the same thing. If they had one piece of advice for their younger selves, it would be make the move to FIVEAA, because you'll wish you'd done it sooner. Come and see why for yourself. Search FIVEAA First Step to book your discovery tour today.
Online, on DAB digital radio, and on 1395 AM. Talking Adelaide. This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Sunny and 36 today with the 7 o'clock news. I'm Mel Usher.
Physio Extra hands-on physio at 6 locations. Even more convenient now with online bookings at physioextra.com.
A man has been arrested after a large cannabis crop was uncovered at a house in Virginia. Senior Constable Kimberly Broad says officers descended on the King Road address yesterday following a tip-off.
So we've conducted a search of the property and discovered around 100 plants being grown hydroponically. Now, electricity was also being illegally diverted to the home to power the equipment which was used to maintain that cannabis crop.
A 38-year-old from Parafield Gardens has been charged with cultivating a commercial quantity of cannabis plants and been bailed to front court next month. The number of confirmed dead following the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria has now passed 12,000. There are fears for 4 Australians missing in the disaster zone. Search and rescue teams are working against the clock to try to find survivors in the rubble. Local reporter Dalara Hamid has spoken to several teams on the ground.
They all told me one common thing, that they have never seen a scene like this before. They told me they've been to war zones. They told me they have been to other disaster zones, but never have they seen something like this before.
Prosecutors have paused their probe into the downing of flight MH17, but say Russia's president is implicated in the disaster. Carrie-Anne Greenbank has more.
International investigators say there are strong indications that Russian President Vladimir Putin personally approved the transfer of the Russian missile system that shot down MH17. Prosecutors say they have evidence a specific request was made to President Putin and approved to supply the Russian-backed separatists in the Donetsk region with heavy anti-aircraft weaponry. MH17 was shot down in 2014, killing all 298 people on board. But investigators say they don't have enough evidence for a criminal prosecution of the president or his officials, and under Dutch law, Vladimir Putin has immunity while he remains head of state.
Ukraine's president says fighter jets would give his country wings for freedom as he renews his pleas for military support. Volodymyr Zelensky has met with King Charles and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak during a visit to the UK. The British PM says he's asked the Defence Secretary what aircraft can be given to Ukraine, but stresses it's a long-term solution. The Australian Electoral Commission is reminding people to enrol to vote via SMS. Madeline McNeil reports.
Around 400,000 people across the country will receive texts and emails from the Electoral Commission as it looks to boost enrolment ahead of the Indigenous Voice referendum. The push is also being made ahead of the New South Wales election in March. While the AEC doesn't conduct the poll, it does provide the electoral roll. Just over 98% of the state's population is enrolled to vote, but the AEC is hoping to reach 100% nationwide.
Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Check out Gliderroll Garage Doors' new Timber Look Native Series sectional doors. Gliderroll.com.au.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. Australia will bat first if Pat Cummins wins the toss in today's first test against India, but the Aussies' 11 remains a tightly guarded secret. The Nagpur pitch is expected to spin, with the curators coming under fire for how it's been prepared. But Cummins isn't buying into the criticism.
I think that's part of the challenge of playing away. Home teams is you want to win at home. In Australia, we're lucky we normally got pace and bounce, but kind of home match advantage, I don't think it's a terrible thing.
Spinner Todd Murphy is in line to make his debut, while Pete Hanscom could also be recalled. To soccer now, one game in the English Premier League this morning, and Leeds United took less than 60 seconds to stun Manchester United fans at Old Trafford as they took a shock 1-0 lead.
Monto, always powerful, always lively! What a start! Leeds United seize control of Old Trafford.
Audio there thanks to Optus. It's now about half hour into that match and Leeds still leads United 1-0. Well, the NBL finals will kick off tonight with a double header. The South East Melbourne Phoenix will host the Perth Wildcats in an elimination final first up, while it will be Cairns up against the Tassie Jack Jumpers in the late game. Meantime, in the NBA, LeBron James is now the leading point scorer of all time in the competition after going past Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's previous record of 38,387 points. But LeBron's 38 points yesterday weren't enough for his LA Lakers as they lost to Josh Giddey's Oklahoma City Thunder 133-130. Giddey himself had 20 points, 5 rebounds and 6 assists. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
A mortgage-free life awaits with the Hospital Research Foundation Home Lottery. Visit homelottery.com.au.
You shouldn't have any hassles if you're about to jump in the car and head to work today. Simply some roadworks to keep in mind. You'll find them at Bedford Park on the Southern Expressway. That's been a hive of activity lately. Got speeds reduced and 2 lanes out of action. Burst Watermain still slowing things up at Glen Osmond, Port Rush Road near Crossroad. Got speeds of 25 there at the moment. And we're starting to get busy South Road and Mile End. Cameras, Nottage Terrace, Medindi and South Terrace in the city. Deals after dark at Amart. Spend $1,299 or more and get free local delivery plus a further $100 off. T's and C's apply. Stores open late at Amart. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Stay cool. Service your aircon at Automasters. And keep cool with Cool Now, Pay Later options.
Sunny and a hot 36 today, sunny tomorrow 29, Saturday cloud clearing 26. Right now it's 17 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
You might think having thousands of POWs is excessive, but that's not what the team at Parafield Airport Liquor Store think, because that's how many they have. Sure, they might be made up of over 200 gins, 300 craft beers, 500 whiskies from around the world, and over 2,000 wines. But they're some of the best POWs you can have, and they're always looking for more. Parafield Airport Liquor Store. POWs, next to Roulette's Tavern, Kings Road, Parafield.
A cure for cancer. Imagine if the genesis of a cure was right there on the street, and you walked past it. Maybe you have. If you were on North Terrace today, you might have walked by Samry, the cheese grater. Great things are happening right here in Adelaide. Research into our biggest health challenges like heart disease, Alzheimer's, allergies, and a better quality of life for Aboriginal young people. At Samry, we don't grate cheese, we do great things. Follow our progress at samry.org.au.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube. David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
7:08. Good morning to you if you're joining us for the first time on this Thursday, the 9th of February. Coming up this hour, Matt Abraham, John Blake, then a little bit later, the Education Minister Blair Boyle. We're going to cross to Turkey as well. We'll speak with Sarah Greenoch from 7 News, and also the President of the Royal College of GPs, Dr. Nicole Higgins, is going to be on the program. It's becoming increasingly difficult to get bulk billed GP services. So much so, it's just about a concept that's, the trajectory of it is not good. It's heading towards extinction. Let's start our news wrap this morning in the UK, where the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has urged the UK to provide his country with fighter jets. He addressed Parliament during what is, in fact, despite lots of dialogue between the two countries, his first visit to the UK since Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Присутні, шановний прем'єр-міністр, шановні журналісти.
The dear Prime Minister, dear journalists. Today, together with Mr. Prime Minister, we are putting the final touches on our negotiations. And this is exactly here on this military base where our Ukrainian warriors are undergoing their training. And we began this day with some defense issues together with Rishi. And then obviously we also continue discussing these defense issues in my address to the British Parliament. And we are closing this day again with the defense issues. We have a very strong defense package from Great Britain. Today I'm not able to share with you all of the details, what we've been talking about and how it is specifically we're going to strengthen Ukraine. However, I would like to say that this day has become very fruitful, and I'm grateful to Prime Minister for understanding our needs and for his helpful advice and for the decisions that are truly helping our Ukrainian warriors to become stronger.
Here's British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak.
Vladimir, it's a privilege to stand today and to have you here in the United Kingdom. The path from Ukraine to the UK has been well trodden over the past 6 months, with 10,000 of your soldiers making the journey for military training and more arriving every week. And just a few days ago, dozens arrived to learn how to operate our Challenger 2 tanks. I'm told they're already mastering the art of driving these 62-ton sophisticated weapons, which will soon be making a difference on the battlefield of your country. And Vladimir, your visit here today underlines our two countries' close and enduring friendship. We will always be by your side, your staunch and unwavering friends. And we both know the people of Ukraine's incredible strength and inspiring bravery will ultimately defeat tyranny. That is why we are training and arming them with the equipment they need to push back Russian forces.
The equipment in question now is fighter jets. In a plea, Volodymyr Zelensky lightened combat aircraft to Wings for Freedom. The UK will announce that it will train Ukrainian forces to fly what they call NATO standard jets. The supply of them at this point in time is problematic. Russia have said military and political consequences for the European continent and the entire world would follow the supply of fighter jets to Ukraine. Again, it's this concept of the imaginary lines we've talked about, but Zelensky's proved a master campaigner. You might recall initially it was artillery pieces and HIMARS missile systems that were desperately needed. Can we do it? Can we do it? Yes, we can. Then it was tanks. We've been debating tanks for the last 2 months. Can we do it? Is it too much? Tanks gets okayed. Now it's fighter jets. As soon as one component of this gets resolved, he moves on to the next, and he's proved a pretty shrewd at forming some sort of coalition of people willing to supply Ukraine.
My two thoughts watching the Zelensky address last night were, one, how does he get in and out of the country? Like, what is the security protocol around being President Zelensky right now like? He'd be the most wanted man in Moscow. But beyond that, the Swiss Parliament, Switzerland's been independent since 1815. Its independence was established under a treaty called the Treaty of Paris. Even when they were surrounded by Nazis in World War II, they said, no, we do not get involved in wars at all. There's a huge debate going on now in the Swiss Parliament about whether they, purely because of Russia's belligerence in Ukraine, whether they're going to tear up more than 2 centuries of neutrality and start exporting weapons to the Ukrainian government. Something like, and this has been an absolute touchstone for the Swiss, something that is innate to their sense of
identity.
Being.
Yeah,
55% of Swiss people now say, "Yep, let's do it."
Unbelievable.
So if Putin, whatever happens in a military sense, like in the sort of battle here, battle there, he might win the war, but long term, where has it left Russia? It's just an isolated pariah state in the eyes of any decent society in the world.
And it's ended up with him manifesting the kind of scenario he argued that he was fighting in Ukraine to avoid, and that was a muscled up expansionist NATO. Because what's happened? Germany, for the first time in forever, has decided it might be worthwhile spending a little bit of money on its own defence.
Finland.
Well, you got those countries that now want to join NATO, of course, that kind of feel like, well, we border Russia. We're potentially in the firing line here. Poland's more belligerent than it's ever been. There's stuff.
All the Baltic states.
The Baltic states. The world's shifting. You talk about Switzerland and their change. Japan, of course, in the last month or two has announced they're going to double the percentage of GDP they spend on defence. They were limited to 1% since the Second World War, when they were only able to maintain a local defence force, they called it. If they double it, they become the 3rd biggest spender in the world on defence. There's been seismic shifts in the defence posture of the world in the last 12 months. Back here at home, we spoke about Australia Post in the first hour of the program. The first full-year loss since 2015 is the situation they're looking for, according to CEO Paul Graham. Here is a little bit of what he had to say on 7 News.
The future is, at some stage, there will be no mail. When that is, it's hard to predict, but this is a global trend. The average household receives less than 2 letters a week. 98% of mail today is corporate. We came off the peaks of COVID, so we certainly saw a flattening out of volume, but still we moved 52 million parcels in December, a record month for us. Ongoing decline in mail, a loss of almost $190 million. That's not a sustainable future for Australia Post.
Some of the raw numbers, Australia Post say losses related to letters soared 171.5%. So they lost $189.7 million for the first half year. As you heard a little bit of what he said there, the concept is that they're strongly pushing now is that letters are in unstoppable decline. By the end of the decade, the average Australian household received less than 1 letter a week, according to Australia Post.
Well, how often do you get emails or messages from your bank telling you to, or from your energy provider telling you to go paper free? And I still get paper correspondence. I find it's easier to keep track of things. I think a lot of analog generation people like me still like getting the letter, getting the bill in the post, because you get so many emails. Like, you can get one from AGL and you lose it. Next thing you know, you get a threatening letter from them saying they're going to sick the lawyers on you.
98% of all mail is corporate mail right now. So bank statements, interest rates, electricity bills, 98% of it is. I bet we've still got a lot of.
I would have thought after 10 successive interest rate rises, Australia Post would be making money hand over fist for the amount of letters the banks are sending out.
That might be the new business model. Good news for music fans this morning. Pink has announced that she has a new Australian tour coming up. 27, 2024, Adelaide Oval. Yes, Pink. Pink's now officially in the FIVEAA Breakfast Good books. On this day, 40 years ago, there was a big concert played at the Adelaide Oval. Care to hazard a guess?
Hang on, 40 years ago?
40 years ago on this day.
So what was the year 40 years ago? It was...
1983.
I'm going to say it was the David Bowie Let's Dance tour.
No, it wasn't Bowie. It was... It's on the Dutton's text line.
We had a good text a few days ago when we were talking about how rubbish most modern music is, which songs will endure 100 years from when they were released, and somebody suggested Bridge Over Troubled Water, which I think is a good pick.
Yep.
Rewatched The Graduate over summer, and geez, that film's good. That is... Now, Luce, that has to be on the list for Lucy, surely, The Graduate. What a movie.
Yeah.
What a movie.
Yep. I think that's fair.
And, of course, Mrs. Robinson, the prototype for Stifler's mum, A Generation On. Anne Bancroft, the comely and unchaste wife who cracks onto Dustin Hoffman's character in that famous scene.
What's this got to do with Simon & Garfunkel?
What do you, the entire movie, the whole soundtrack to the movie is penned by...
Is that right?
Simon & Garfunkel,
Right.
including... And I won't give it away. Spoiler alert, Luce, in the soundproof booth there. Cover your ears. But the final scene of the movie, and I won't describe it because it'll spoil it. It's just... Joe Hildebrand made a passing reference to it in a column I read a couple of days ago. But just it sort of captures this moment of a really nice feeling of youth where you don't know what's going to happen with your life, but you think that somehow everything is going to turn out okay. But the final credits like... Hello, darkness, my old friend. The perfect song for what's happening in the movie.
Andy in Henley Beach has called in. Morning to you, Andy.
Morning, lads. How you going, all right?
Good, thanks, Andy. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. You're talking about Simon & Garfunkel, yeah?
Yep.
Even better than Simon & Garfunkel. Best gig I've seen in Adelaide, probably 7 years ago, at Cooper's Brewery. Sting and Paul Simon together.
Oh, really? So I didn't know about that concert. That would have been fantastic.
Wow.
Best version of Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Two of them, they were phenomenal. They both come on together, sang a few songs. Paul Simon stayed on for an hour or so, and then Sting came on, did his bit, and then both of them together. Phenomenal.
Oh, good stuff, Andy.
Wow.
Thank you. Appreciate the call.
At the brewery.
That would have been sensational. Love the song America by Simon & Garfunkel. They got so many wonderful songs.
Yeah, they have.
19 minutes after 7. We're going to check traffic and come back with more in just a moment. A mortgage-free life awaits with the Hospital Research Foundation Home Lottery. Visit homelottery.com.au.
Thanks, Will. Pretty smooth sailing if you're on the way to work today, which is good news. Simply some works. Keep in mind, got some in Woodville at the moment, Woodville Road near Kemp Street. Fair bit of activity at Bedford Park for those works on the Southern Expressway this morning. 2-lane closed and speeds reduced. And she's pretty slow going at the moment at Glen Osmond. That's due to a burst water main, Port Rush Road near Crossroad. Busy right now, Tapley's Hill Road at Glenelg North, and got a camera, Days Road at Regency Park. It's Telstra Day with unreal deals on a range of products, including home internet. Shop in-store, online to find out more. Grab a deal today because they'll be gone tomorrow. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Everyday low prices, any time of year. Trust the mighty South Aussies. Great food lives here, Foodland. The mighty South Aussies, yeah. Foodland.
You're watching the 5AA live stream, thanks to Foodland.
The mighty South Aussies, yeah.
Havel 22 plate clearance is on now. Incredible deals across the range and vehicles in stock ready for immediate delivery. Be quick, don't miss the 22 plate clearance. Only at Southgate GWM, Main South Road, Brunella.
LVD 152780.
Want to know the secret to feeling happy at home? It's having neighbours you love knowing, spaces you like going, enjoying peaceful gardens where someone else does the mowing. At Lend-Lease Retirement Living, we have 4 villages across South Australia, so you can embrace a life of delight. Join us for a tour and discover the joy of retirement in a community that cares. Call 1800 550 550 or search Lend-Lease Retirement Living.
What does Rusden Wines have in common with cricket? Well, their Blackgut Shiraz will bowl you over, and Rusden's Boundaries Cabernet always scores well.
Their Christian Chenin Blanc delivers a good line and length, and you'll never be caught out with Rusden Sand Scrub Shiraz.
So if you call into Rusden Wine cellar door for a wine tasting and cheese, don't be surprised if you're drawn into a little bit of backyard cricket on the green.
It's always a winning innings with Rusden Wines.
Get back to work with Bunnings Trade and get amazing value on trade quality power tools, like a Paslow Framemaster and Coilmaster pair with 3 batteries for $1,599. Check out our range in-store and online. Bunnings Trade. Helping business is our trade.
G'day, Tom Wren here. Greyhounds love to run, and Greyhound fans love Thursday nights at Angle Park. For top greyhound racing, a great family atmosphere and the amazing food, Chase's Restaurant is offering a full a la carte menu to ensure you have a fantastic night out. Chips, wedges, through to classics like burgers, fish and chips, schnitties and steaks. Yum! Grab the whole family and get to the park to watch those dogs go. Every Thursday night at Angle Park Greyhounds.
For more than 10 years, Brenton Raglas and Kate Collins have brought you all the big stories on 9 News.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings. This is 5AA Breakfast.
It's 23 minutes after 7.
It's time to flashback with Michael Smith.
That might be my favourite intro we have. Michael Smith from 7 News as we flash back in time. Here's the Flash Gordon of television. Michael, good morning to you.
Oh, good morning, champs. And I use that term advisedly this morning. I wouldn't normally champ you at 23 past 7 of a morning. But on Flashback this week, we are looking at the introduction of decimal currency because the anniversary is coming up next Tuesday. And believe it or not, the champ was one of the names they considered using.
Champ.
Imagine that. No. You go to the pub. I'll have a schooner of pale ale, thanks. Oh, that'll be 3 champs, thanks, pal.
Sounds very passive-aggressive, doesn't it?
I was going to say, champ's not a nice thing to call people. I reckon champ more often than not these days is a sledge. It's a precursor to picking a blue with someone.
But maybe it wouldn't have been if it was money.
Nice one, champ.
Mm.
Well, listen up, champ.
He's a champ, you know. You can use it in a positive term.
That's
and maybe back in the 60s it had a different connotation. But certainly you're right now, David. If you call someone a champ today, it can be quite controversial. Long story short, that was one of the names that was considered, along with the kanga, the roo, the wombat, all sorts of things were suggested. Yeah, imagine that.
He paid 1.4 million wombats for that place.
That'll be 3 fatsos 50, thanks.
Yeah.
Pal.
What do you think? You think I'm made of wombats?
Harold Holt, who was the treasurer in the Menzies government at the time, actually initially announced that our currency to replace pounds, shillings and pence was going to be called the Royal. But that wasn't very well received by the public, so they did a backflip to call it dollars and cents. And as you can imagine, moving from LSD, pounds, shillings and pence, to dollars and cents was going to be quite confusing. So they launched a series of education campaigns, a lot in the press. But also, there was that famous jingle. I reckon a lot of people would still remember the lyrics to this.
In come the dollars, in come the cents, to replace the pounds and the shillings and the pence. Be prepared, folks, when the coins begin to mix on the 14th of February 1966. On February 14th, you'll start using new dollar notes, each printed in a number of colours with one colour predominating. The $1 note is predominantly brown and carries a portrait of the Queen and the Australian coat of arms on the front and Aboriginal drawings on the back.
It was very effective, Michael, because I can tell you my parents used to sing that all the time when we were kids. That jingle would just come out in an idle moment, so it really cut through.
And you notice that they had to describe the colour of the notes, because television was black and white in those days, so they were saying the $10 note is bluish and the $20 note is an orange tinge. You know.
Did you do the voiceovers, mate?
I could have. Still getting the royalties today. That'd be nice. Of course, the paper notes go away to polymer in the 90s, and if you want to feel really old, it's now more than 30 years since 1 and 2 cent coins were removed from circulation. I reckon a lot of kids have probably still got them in their piggy banks around town.
Is it that long?
And,
wow.
when they first introduced dollars and cents, the two currencies actually ran in parallel. So if you went to the supermarket or department store, they'd have the prices listed in pounds, shillings and pence and dollars and cents. I imagine it was a very confusing time for people, having only known decimal currency for all of our lives. It must have been quite a transition for people, and there were vox pops at the time of people saying, oh, can't they just wait until all the old people have died before they introduce this new currency?
I mean, metric's so much easier to work out, though.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around shillings and pence. It's completely foreign. Hey, the old 5-cent piece is probably living on borrowed time, isn't it?
I would have thought.
You think so? You wonder how much longer cash has got at all, given the prevalence of tap and go and COVID really spurning the use of that. So I don't know. Some people say cash is still king. That's great if you're in the underworld, but don't know how much longer it's going to be around as regular everyday currency. It's interesting.
Maybe Tap and Go just needs a catchy jingle to get it across the line. Michael, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Looking forward to
Great
a 7
stuff.
News flashback Sunday night. That's
The Wombats.
fascinating. Kangas.
Kangas
We would have
and
been
wombats.
make us sound like a fairly unserious country if we're dealing with the kanga, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm just thinking what currencies named after animals. The only one I can think of is the Quetzal, which is the Guatemalan currency, is named after a bird.
Guatemalan economy, not a benchmark economy, is it?
Just pretty much like the old banana trade.
All right, let's reflect on the sports show last night. Rowie and Timmy G caught up with Charlie Dixon and spoke about Port's new look forward line.
That front six is looking exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great to have Junior Rioli in there. He's looking very good, and the way we're sort of moving the ball now is pretty similar, really, but it's just we've got some really good ball users, and no, I'm just excited to see how we go, mate.
Is there an intent to get it inside 50 quicker? Because I hope so. I mean, you mentioned a few. There's yourself, Junior Rioli, Fantasia running around. I mean, why would you not try to get a lot more one-on-ones quicker, Charlie?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the plan, to get the ball in the forward 50 as quick as possible and not give defence time to set up. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be the aim, but as you know, it's easier said than done.
Will you ruck less this year? Scooter back, from injury. Jazz, of course, became that incredible on-baller. You got young Tickle and Hayes in the wings. Will that release you?
I'm not sure yet. I don't know. I had a few discussions about pinch hitting every now and then and doing a bit here and there, but yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, Scoot coming back always sort of is good. That means that the sort of forward line can, stay as one, and with a little bit of pinch hitting there from either Jez or myself. But yeah, no, I'm happy to do a bit of ruck. I'm happy to do whatever the team needs me to do, to be honest.
Hearing interviews like that on the sports show, it's starting to feel like footy season. More from that on the way from Rowie and Timmy G tonight. We've got 5AA News coming up. Mate Abraham is next.
Thanks to FIVEAA, you could win one of 10 Value What Matters $5,000 gift cards. To enter, just purchase an eligible new FIVEAA comprehensive car or home insurance policy. That's FIVEAA value. Call today on 13 50 50 or go online. FIVEAA is an authorised representative of AAI Limited, the product issuer. Read the PDS before buying insurance. TMD available. Call for a copy. Competition ends 31st of March 2023. Full T&Cs at apia.com.au/win. SA permit number T22/1718.
Fancy a wine? You'll find a huge hand-picked selection at your local independent SA family liquor store, FIVEAA. Or if you fancy a beer, you'll find the very best local, imported and craft beer at FIVEAA too. But if you fancy spirits, you'll find whiskies, gins and liquors for all tastes at FIVEAA. And you'll find friendly service and advice too. Whatever you fancy, you'll find it at FIVEAA, your local independent SA family liquor stores for over 45 years.
This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Sunny and 36 today with the 7:30 news. I'm Mel Usher.
Keep your body in shape with Physio Extra clinical Pilates and group exercise classes. PhysioExtra.com.
The cannabis grow house has been discovered in Virginia following a tip-off. Senior Constable Kimberly Broad says police found around 100 plants growing hydroponically inside the King Road property.
There was a 38-year-old man from Parafield Gardens at the scene at the time. He's been arrested and charged with cultivating a commercial quantity of cannabis plants, and he'll be appearing in the Elizabeth Magistrates Court next month.
And court today for a man charged over the seizure of drugs, firearms and explosives in the mid-north. It follows 2 raids on Jamestown properties this week. The 48-year-old will appear in the Port Pirie Magistrates Court. The official death toll from the Turkey and Syrian earthquakes has now passed 12,000. Australia will send search and rescue teams to Turkey in the coming days. Foreign Affairs is assisting 40 Australians who are in the region. Another 4 are still missing. Shadow Foreign Minister Simon Birmingham says our consular officials are working around the clock.
Our hearts go out to those families who have lost loved ones, who have missing people, and particularly to those families of 4 potential missing Australians. We know how distressing this time will be for you, and we just hope and pray that those rescue workers are able to find your loved ones.
The state government will contribute $200,000 to UNICEF to help in recovery efforts. Peter Malinauskas says they also stand ready to send emergency services personnel if needed. Last night, buildings across Adelaide were illuminated white as a further show of support. The British Prime Minister has told the Ukrainian President nothing is off the table when it comes to military aid. Volodymyr Zelensky has travelled to the UK in his second international visit since Russia invaded his country. He's asked Rishi Sunak for fighter jets, which no Western allies have agreed to so far. Mr Sunak didn't make any promises to send the aircraft, but has denied any reluctance over the request. Mr Zelensky says more military aid is needed to defend Russian advances.
And I appeal to you and the world with simple and yet most important words. Combat aircrafts for Ukraine. Wings for freedom.
A proposal for a coal mine to be built near the Great Barrier Reef has been rejected by the federal government. The mining project, backed by businessman and former politician Clive Palmer, was found to have caused irreversible damage if it went ahead. The UNESCO World Heritage listed site is currently considered to be highly vulnerable. Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Gliderol Garage Doors, adding strength, safety and style to South Australian homes for over 40 years. Gliderol.com.au.
And it's over to Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. Let's start with footy. Port Adelaide forward Charlie Dixon says he's feeling fit and strong as he prepares for the upcoming season. The 32-year-old has barely missed a session, which he told Rowie and Timmy G is a far cry from where he was this time last year.
This one's been great. You know, like I'm not laying in a bed. In a hospital bed. I had surgery, so I was around this time last year. But no, I'm feeling good, and I feel like we're in a good place, and my body's feeling good.
A timeline isn't being put on Sam Walsh's return for Carlton. Meantime, the Blues midfielder is recovering from back surgery in December. Coach Michael Voss telling Today that Walsh is progressing well.
He seems to be progressing okay. His timelines are not certain at this point in time, but he's progressing pretty well.
Let's go to cricket. The first test between Australia and India will begin in Nagpur this afternoon, our time. Indian captain Rohit Sharma isn't paying attention to criticism of the pitch. The hosts are being accused of doctoring a spin-heavy pitch to favour their bowlers. Sharma, though, isn't buying into it.
Speaking about the doctored wicket, I just feel that we got to focus on the cricket that is going to be played for the next 5 days, not worry too much about the pitch.
Meantime, South Australia's cricketers will train today ahead of tomorrow's Sheffield Shield clash against Western Australia. And there's one game in the English Premier League this morning with Leeds leading Manchester United 1-0 heading into the second half. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
A mortgage-free life awaits with the Hospital Research Foundation Home Lottery. Visit homelottery.com.au.
She's looking pretty good for the drive-in today. Shouldn't have too many hassles. It is starting to get busy, however, at South Road at Mile End, also Port Wakefield Road at Jeps Cross, and you'll find delays this morning at Glen Osmond. That's reverse water main, Port Rush Road near Cross Road with speeds of 25. She's a hive of activity at Bedford Park today. That's for those works in the Southern Expressway. Few lanes still out of action with speeds reduced, and got a camera East Terrace in the city. At Harvey Norman, save 15% when you buy a selected Samsung TV and soundbar in the same transaction. Offer ends Sunday. Hurry in now to Harvey Norman. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Stay cool. Service your aircon at Automasters. And keep cool with Cool Now, Pay Later options.
Heading for a top of 36 today and sunny. Sunny tomorrow 29, Saturday cloud clearing 26 and Sunday 25. Right now it's 18 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
When you're going fishing, you never know what's going to bite. But don't worry, Barnacle Bills is always a catch. Whenever you need to tackle lunch or dinner, your trusty favourites are always there, like prawns, calamari, butterfish, whiting, chippies and more. Barnacle Bill is your seaside in the suburbs.
Hey, Rowie, do you want this calamari?
For over 38 years, Steinborner has been well worth the trip. With over 400 used cars to choose from, you're sure to find the car you're looking for. Steinborner is your first choice for new Hyundai and Mitsubishi in the Barossa, and your first choice for Ford in Clare. And don't forget, you can always click through the collection of vehicles online at steinborner.com.au. Great local deals on great local cars from your locals. Steinborner Automotive. Still well worth the trip, or well worth the click.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube. David Penberthy and Will Goodings. This is 5AA Breakfast.
23 minutes to 8. John Blake coming up very shortly. If you're watching on the Foodland Supermarkets Facebook and YouTube live stream, you'll note we've got a guest in the studio.
9 out of 10, every time.
Matthew Abraham on 5AA Breakfast.
Thanks to the great people at Mitre 10. Matt Abraham's in his summer shirt. Good morning to you, Matt.
Oh, there. Thank you very much.
That is one heck of a shirt.
Yeah.
You look like you should be at one of those tiki bars drinking a pina colada, man. It's terrific. It looks like something that the Beach Boys were wearing in the Kokomo clip.
Let's not get too carried away. I got it at Rivers.
Oh, yeah, they do a good cheap shirt.
Yeah. Well, there aren't that many Rivers stores around anymore, but anyway.
No. From Bendigo, I think, originally, aren't they? The shoes were popular for a
They
while there in
they
the
do
80s.
a good line in shoes, the old Rivers.
Do they hold up in more austere times, Matt, with cost of living beginning to pinch and interest rates going up for a ninth consecutive time, or do you need multiple rental properties yielding you $115,000 a year to shop there?
Well, it's interesting having conversations with our family, and our kids are well on the way to growing up. They've got young kids and so on, and suddenly in the last few weeks, they're talking about. I might look at shopping at Aldi rather than Woolies, and even I might go. I was saying, well, I just can't. I can't believe the cost of groceries at the moment. Well, it's just incredible.
It's staggering, isn't it?
And the shrinking size of things. So boxes of cereal, and if you're unfortunate enough to be celiac, which my wife is, a box of Kellogg's Sultana brand made in Korea, gluten-free, is $7 for a box of cereal. And they start to make the boxes smaller. But so you look at that and you think, this is incredible. And what's driving this all of a sudden? Are companies, why is everything so expensive all of a sudden? Are companies, have they decided after 2 years of almost going broke during the pandemic lockdowns that we've got to play catch up here, we've got to rip some money in? Or are things actually that much more expensive? And why?
It depends on the thing. Like something like vegetable oil. Like I had the shock of my life about a year ago after the war started in Ukraine, where 2 litres of vegetable oil, I was frying some fish, so I went down and bought 2 litres from the local Drakes, and I think it was like $14. And I just thought, what? How the hell was vegetable oil suddenly... Well, normally it's like $7 for 2 litres.
Yeah.
So 7.8% inflation last year, but that doesn't account for all of it. The Australia Post I thought was interesting. We were speaking about it a little bit earlier, Matt. They talked about the fact that wage rises are largely leading to their lack of profitability at the moment. The first year they're going to record a year-on-year loss since 2015. But I think the thing that goes to the heart of your question, and something I wonder that I suspect will never have truly answered, despite perhaps the best efforts of the ACCC, is in an environment where people are expecting prices to go up. How much of it is a legitimate byproduct of prices going up, and how much of it is an opportunity when people are less likely to question it? And go,
exactly. And when does it become a political problem for government? So you've got state government and the federal government. It seems to me that a lot of energy and a lot of the brain power from the Malinowskis government has gone into designing a voice for our parliament here. When the priority, and I know it was an election commitment, I don't think many people understood what it meant in South Australia, voters, when the priority was fixing ramping and the health system, which they palpably haven't done. And the same with the federal government. Again, a lot of, if you're watching television, are they on every night talking about the cost of living? If you follow President Joe Biden, that's all he talks about. making things cheaper for Americans. I've got you this deal, I've done that. It's going to be, you can get a hearing aid across the counter now thanks to my reforms for $3,000. All this sort of stuff, all the time on Twitter.
There's no doubt that in the same way a lot of people in '99 with the Republic were going, well, geez, is this really the number one issue facing us as a country? Haven't we got bigger fish to fry? Like, a cost of living squeeze is a hard backdrop to pull off something as big as constitutional reform.
It is.
As noble as the intent might be, I think that's certainly a hugely valid point you make.
And we've got this, and Sam Maiden's done a cracking column on this in the Advertiser today, but it first surfaced in Margin Call in the Australian, your newspaper there, David, which is a column, which is a great column actually. They get all the sort of lowdown on property sales and all that sort of gear. Christine Lacey and Yoni Bashan, and they look at the, I don't know how they get this information, but they look at the Prime Minister, who resides, lays his head at the lodge in Canberra, and while in Sydney it's convention that he flop at Kirribilli House. He was going to sell his Sydney property. That's the one he was photographed out, in his Jim Jams after the election. But he listed it for rent via a local agent, and 6 days later it was taken off the market because someone offered to pay $1,350 a week. $1,350 a week to live under Albo's roof and swim in his backyard pool. That means, this is them writing this, collectively the PM is enhancing his $564,000 salary with about $115,000 a year in annual rental earnings while living cost-free on the taxpayer's dime. This is while interest rates were tightened by another 0.25 percentage point to hit 3.5% on Tuesday, their highest level since September 2012. And then he talks about Malcolm Turnbull. He didn't want to. He turned down an opportunity to reside at Kirribilli House while he was Prime Minister because he wanted to stay at his Point Piper mansion. We didn't want to slum it.
No. Well, it's true. Turnbull's house is vastly better than Kirribilli House. It is. He used to get around in a kayak, which I think was called the Common Man.
Yes. Scott Morrison left his house empty. Mainly during his 2 terms, and eventually gifted it to a flood victim at no charge.
Yeah, they were living in his shed.
Yeah. So now
I'm not trying to run cover for Albo, but that figure for the rent sounds extraordinary. That is actually a run-of-the-mill family home rental in Sydney. When I was in 2009, I was renting a 4-bedroom family home in the suburb of Drummoyne, which is a solid middle-class suburb. It's like McGill or Marion. The rent from memory was $850, and that was just, at the time I was like, well, that's just, I'm blowing this dough, but there's nothing you can do about it.
That's probably cheap.
I think the thing politically that's problematic for Anthony Albanese, and you're right, they've managed to skirt all the cost of living pressure. Historically, there's a rate rise in the middle of an election campaign, and it's considered something that might swing the election.
Yeah.
We've had 9 in a row, and no one's talking about the political implications of it. But the thing that's problematic, I think, for him specific to this issue is that rental occupancy right now is about 99%. It's harder to get a rental than it ever has been in Australian history. And a policy of this Labor government has been to turbocharge the number of people they're bringing into the country. Of course, it went down massive during COVID. They're not just restoring to pre-COVID levels. They're going beyond that at the moment because business wants people to come in for labour shortages. But these people, a huge percentage of them tend to rent. Now, it's just politically a bad look that he's making a mozza out of rentals at the same time as there's a stack of, you go to a rental at the moment in any suburb in Adelaide, you line up around the block, you apply, you say, I've got 3 kids and a dog and whatever. You never hear back if you don't get it. You just live in this constant state of limbo. It's a terrible look.
Yeah. It politically, and I think it will bite. I think it will bite politically.
Well, it goes to that sort of sense of remoteness. I was thinking too, counting backwards, we've had 4 prime ministers in a row, this supposed federation, wide brown land of ours. Has it become a sort of de facto rule of Australian politics that the Prime Minister has to come from Sydney? Because we've had Albo, before that we had ScoMo, before that we had Malcolm Turnbull, and before that we had Tony Abbott. Where you live informs how you think about things. And for people to be from the most affluent and so detached from the day-to-day reality of life of people in like Salisbury or Seaford or Borough or Tumby Bay, you know, as a nation, Keating, with trademark arrogance, said, if you're not living in Sydney, you're camping out.
Yeah, yeah.
How do people... It's bad enough being stuck in the rarefied world of Canberra. You know, to quote Barry Humphries again, 10 minutes drive from Australia. Best thing about Canberra.
Yeah.
But Sydney's often its own weird little orbit too.
Well, Sydney's its own nation. So Sydney is its own country, just like New York in America. New York doesn't... If you go to New York, it's nothing like America. It's nothing like the rest of America at all. People who want to get a taste of America should go to, you know, Louisville.
Wichita.
You don't go to New York. And it's the same in Australia. If you want a taste of it, you know, where Australia's at, you don't go to Sydney. You know, it's a different nation, and they really, and I know, I do remember, I've written a quote down somewhere from you, Will, just in case you think people don't pay any attention to radio, but you know
I'm always writing down stuff, Will.
Especially about the pandas. You know, you said these
Will Gooding, South Australia.
These slurs are like Dominic Perrottet, the perpetually frightened-looking Premier of New South Wales, when he had a sledge about us having a test here that, you know, a 5-day rained-out test in Sydney is better than a 5-day test in Adelaide. And Sam Shaheen has written a really good column about it in the Tizer this morning. I think these things need to be challenged, but it does reflect, as you said, those sorts of comments aren't throwaway lines because they become part of the mentality of people who make decisions, not just about government in New South Wales, but about business. You know, this is, well, who cares about Adelaide? Like, you know, I'd rather go to a 5-day rained-out test in Sydney, you know, than go to Adelaide. And it does become part of that. And then we're drawing, as you say, Dave, and I reckon you're working up to a column on this, but we're drawing...
I think you're right.
Because... David's got a big yellow pad, and I can always tell when he starts jotting down things. But and it's a good column to write about. If we don't draw them from Sydney, we draw them from Melbourne.
Yeah,
which is about to overtake Sydney as our largest city.
Where it perverts public policy, though, is where it becomes, and there's utter lack of self-awareness on the part of Sydney's politicians. And the National Party are often the worst offenders. I mean, they're one of the greatest sort of, you know, agrarian socialist conspiracies in the land when it comes to the amount of government assistance they ask for. But we can have a conversation here about, look, our car industry, it's really on the slide. We need something to manage its probably inevitable decline. So we need some sort of package, find new jobs, target new industries, or we need an Alice Springs to Darwin rolling, so we can get South Australian goods and products up to Asia faster. Now, the immediate response of people in Sydney is, well, that's just provincial can rattling by a mendicant state that can't wipe its own bum.
Yeah.
And you can all get stuffed. Yet, the moment an election is called, and having edited the Daily Telly, I used to do this all the time for a living, the immediate question people in Sydney ask, where they've got, you know, 15 marginal seats that make or break governments, is, what's in this for Penrith? What about the forgotten people of Penrith and Campbelltown? And they, in the same breath, they look at us as bludgers. But they'll think nothing of framing entire campaigns around
a suburb.
The band of swing seats on the outskirts of Sydney.
Yeah. Well, that's where elections are won and lost, as we know, in those key seats. So.
Almost got this column finished.
Yep, I reckon. Just type it up, and if anyone can read your writing.
Be at the pub by 3 o'clock.
All right. Should we write some spin?
Oh, yes.
9 out of 10, every time.
Decisions. Now, this is a late change of direction because I was going to make the mighty Mitre 10 spinometer look at the head of SA Pathology, who last night on ABC TV, I thought to myself, stop sort of trying to smile when you're saying you're going to get rid of half your workforce. And then when she was asked whether it was about cost, no, it's not about cost. But anyway, let us not do that, because this is from Federal Parliament yesterday, where Chris Bowen, Minister for Climate Change and Energy, he was on his feet and he was really roasting the coalition, or as he repeatedly referred to them, as the no-alition. So much so that one MP, Liberal MP Angie Bell, kept interjecting. And I think this is a first, because what she did as she was booted out, and we'll hear this in a minute, is she gave the Speaker the finger.
Oh.
Seriously?
Yeah, have a listen to this.
The member for Moncrieff will leave the chamber. She has been continually interjecting. You may be sitting... The member for Moncrieff will come back to the dispatch box and apologise.
I withdraw. Mr. Speaker, I apologise.
Now, technically, you can withdraw a finger.
I was going to say, where did she put it? So I get your Speaker's just dead his prostate check. Now, cough.
Don't, please. Who can ever forget the Chevy Chase?
Oh yeah.
Blue Moon. But anyway. For, I think, the least sincere apology in the history of politics. Well, a finger's a digit. I'm giving it a 1 out of 10.
Matt Abraham, thanks to Mitre 10. Let's check traffic. That went to weird and wonderful places, didn't it? Mortgage-free life awaits with the Hospital Research Foundation Home Lottery. Visit homelottery.com.au.
Thanks, Will. Pretty smooth sailing for the drive-in today, which is excellent. No great hassles. Getting busy in a few spots this morning, including Port Wakefield Road at Jepps Cross. Also seeing some delays South Road at Mile End. Do have a burst water main slowing things up at Glen Osmond, Port Rush Road near Crossroads, speeds at 25. And busy at the moment at Bedford Park with those works on the Southern Expressway. Hive of activity there at the moment. Speeds reduced and 2 lanes out of action. Find the perfect Valentine's Day gifts at Michael Hill with 20% off selected gold and gemstone jewellery. Offer ends soon, so hurry into Michael Hill today. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Today I'm talking to Tracy, who's one of Arbor Vitae's many happy customers. Hi.
Hello, Lee.
When did you start taking Arbor Vitae and what for?
I'm a cake maker by trade and suffered with sore hands for years, which is a common issue for my fellow bakers. They know how debilitating it is. A friend suggested I tried Arbor Vitae, and I can't believe how well it's worked for me.
What benefits have you noticed from Arbor Vitae?
It was after my second bottle that I noticed the difference. My pain has all but disappeared. It's like a magic potion. I'm able to work with no pain. No stretch of the truth. It's worked so well for me.
Are you happy to recommend Arbor Vitae? And what would you tell our listeners about this product?
Absolutely. And I'd say to them that I felt my pain reside after the second bottle. So if you do try it and don't feel any changes from the first bottle, stick with it. It's also got a great berry-like flavour, which makes it easy to consume.
It's wonderful to hear how much of a positive impact it has had on your life. Thank you for your time, Tracy. Arbor Vitae is an anti-inflammatory supplement made from natural ingredients like pycnogonol, enzyme papain from the papaya fruit, aloe vera and honey. There are many joys that come with growing older, and Arbor Vitae helps you optimise these joys. It helps to reduce mild arthritis, relieve other joint pain, and helps to maintain healthy blood glucose. For Tracy from New South Wales, Arbor Vitae has saved her career. Remember, for more information, visit arborvitae.com.au, and remember, always read the label and follow the directions for use. Stocked in chemists and health food stores all over Adelaide.
Hello, I'm Lynn Andrews. For over 50 years, we have specialised in commercial and residential property management. But above all, we specialise in people, helping to make life easy for property investors and the tenants of their properties. Everyone is treated with integrity and respect. That's the Lynn Andrews way. For commercial and residential property management, we are here to help. Visit lynnandrews.com.au.
You possibly won't find Australia's largest range of rollers, spare parts and accessories for sliding doors and windows at your local hardware store. I mean, I guess you could try, but nah. Instead of wasting time, how about you save time? Visit rollerco.com.au, because spare parts for sliding doors and windows is what we do. Our warehouse is full of them. rollerco.com.au. We'll get you rolling.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube. David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
5 minutes to 8. Carolyn's called into the program. Morning, Carolyn.
Good morning.
So, Carolyn, where were you in 1983 on this day?
Well, I was 9 years old, and my parents and
and my brothers all went to the concert at Adelaide Oval.
Simon and Garfunkel. That's
Absolutely.
Was that just because your parents loved them and they couldn't get a babysitter, or were you guys fans as well?
I think we were all of that age that they couldn't get a babysitter. So they took us all along, and my middle brother and I have been fans ever since.
Did they take you to any other concerts because they couldn't get a babysitter? Did you get a big musical education?
Oh, I think I saw Kenny Rogers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did he just checked in to see what condition my condition was in?
What's your favourite Simon and Garfunkel song, Carolyn?
Oh, I think it would be The Sound of Silence or Homeward Bound.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're good songs,
Yeah,
aren't they?
there's lots to pick from. Thank you, Carolyn. If you were there in 1983, we'd love to hear from you this morning. It was on this day 40 years ago. Time for John Blake, thanks to Aussie Fast Transport Solutions, interstate freight, distribution, warehousing and local Adelaide couriers. Call Aussie Fast on 13 13 64.
Yes, Steph.
Good morning, Premier. Tom Goodson-Tonus is here to see you.
Okay, you can send him in, thanks.
Will do. You can go in.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hey, would you like to come over for a barbecue one day?
No, thank you.
Whatever.
Come in, Tom.
Hello, Peter. Oh.
G'day, Tom. What's up?
Boy, oh boy, the health system's in a mess.
What do you want, Tom?
I was just having another look at the video of you fighting with Dominic Parrotface.
All right.
You smacked him pretty good, Premier Peter.
Well, I don't know.
When he rubbished Adelaide, you should have destroyed him.
Well, no, I thought keeping it calm was better.
Oh, you should have said something clever like, oh, shut up, chook nose.
All right.
Why don't you go home and dress up like Adolf Hitler?
Oh, Tom.
Well, I thought it was an opportunity missed, Premier Peter. He was being a bit aggressive.
Yeah, better to be the pacifist than no one can get you.
He is pretty useless, though.
Oh, well.
I mean, he really could have had a go at you if he wanted to.
What do you mean?
Well, you know, he could have said, washed out test in Sydney, still better than test match in Adelaide, because you can't get an ambulance when you want one over there. And
well, what's that got to do with it?
Well, it's just something that he could have said, if he wanted to really have a go at you.
All right.
Why would you want to go to Adelaide? They've got a government that's more interested in parties and cricket than fixing ambulance wamping.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, okay, thanks,
You
Tom.
go to Adelaide, you can't even shop on a public holiday.
Yes, thank you.
Bloody nightmare. You can't get alcohol in the supermarket.
Okay.
They haven't even got real beaches.
What?
You look over the water at a Sydney beach, at least the next stop's South America.
Oh.
You look over the water in South Australia, and the next stop is more bloody South Australia. See, these are some of the things that he could have said.
Great, thanks. Goodbye.
He could have brought up unemployment.
Goodbye, Tom.
Lack of doctors and nurses, too many councils,
Oh,
young
yeah.
people all leaving to go to New South Wales,
Oh.
nothing to do except drink.
Not all that bad, is it?
I reckon it'd be fun to run the headline, because Perrottet's going to lose
Hmm.
the election. This is an ex-Perrottet. That'd be a good headline, wouldn't it? With him upside down on a perch, with his head stuck on a...
If he wasn't nailed to the perch, he'd be pushing up the daisies.
Was it the Norwegian blue? He's pining.
Minute to 8. 5AA News is coming up. Breaking at 8 shortly, and more from John Blake after 8:30 when we get behind closed doors.
The Hospital Research Foundation Home Lottery is back with millions of dollars in prizes to be won. You could be our next big winner. This is your chance to live the dream mortgage-free in the $3.5 million grand prize in Henley Beach. Every ticket sold fights for cures and improved care in hospitals across South Australia. To see full lottery details and get your tickets, visit homelottery.com.au today. Licence M14311.
Gentlemen, is the urge to pee all the time getting in the way of your everyday life? Caruso's Pee Less to the rescue. Caruso's Pee Less is a unique herbal formula that relieves urinary frequency and helps support healthy bladder and prostate function. So, if you'd like to pee less, try Caruso's Pee Less today. Caruso's Pee Less is made in Australia and comes with a money-back guarantee. Available from leading pharmacies and health stores. Always read the label and follow the directions for use.
For more than 10 years, Brenton Raglas and Kate Collins have brought you all the big stories on 9 News.
Online, on DAB digital radio, and on 1395 AM. Talking Adelaide. This is Adelaide's FIVEAA.
Sunny and 36 today with the 8 o'clock news. I'm Mel Usher.
Physio Extra hands-on physio at 6 locations. Even more convenient now with online bookings at physioextra.com.
A 38-year-old man has been arrested after a cannabis grow house was uncovered at Virginia. Police raided the King Road property after a tip-off, finding around 100 cannabis plants being grown hydroponically. Electricity was also being illegally diverted to the house. The man has been charged with cultivating a commercial quantity of cannabis and will face court next month. The death toll from the Turkey and Syria earthquakes continues to climb. It's now past 12,000. There are fears for 4 Australians missing in the disaster zone. The Turkish president has travelled to the area hardest hit, defending the emergency response, claiming it's impossible to prepare for disasters on this scale.
All state institutions are working at the moment. On the first day we experienced some problems, but then on the second day and today the situation has been taken under control. We will never allow our citizens to be left out on the streets.
An international investigation into the downing of flight MH17 has been suspended. Prosecutors say there are strong indications Russian President Vladimir Putin signed off on the supply of missiles, which were used to shoot down the plane in 2014, killing all 298 people on board. But they say they can't proceed any further with their probe, mainly due to a lack of cooperation from Moscow. Concerns have been raised about Chinese-made surveillance cameras installed in Australian government buildings. Almost 1,000 cameras, intercoms, electronic entry systems can be found at various departments. Its via data is being fed back to Beijing. Opposition Senator Simon Birmingham says the matter must be addressed.
And we will be seeking to make sure that the government has taken every bit of advice necessary to guarantee the safety and security of Australian government facilities, to ensure that information and data and operations remain confidential where necessary.
Another streaming service is dealing with a drop in viewers. Disney Plus lost 2.4 million subscribers in the last 3 months of 2022. It's the first drop since launching in late 2020. And Pink is following in the footsteps of the Rolling Stones and Adele. She'll perform at Adelaide Oval on February 27 next year as part of a national tour. Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Check out Gliderroll Garage Doors' new Timber Look Native Series sectional doors. Gliderroll.com.au.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. Australia's quest to win its first men's test series in India since 2004 will begin this afternoon. The series opener in Nagpur has been embroiled in controversy already due to allegations the home side has doctored the pitch. The Aussies will be without Mitchell Starc, Josh Hazlewood and Cameron Green. Scott Boland a chance to play along with spinner Todd Murphy, while Pete Hanscom could also come in for Matt Renshaw as the pitch is expected to be more favourable for right-handers. Meantime, the women's team's preparation for the 2020 World Cup in South Africa have ended with a 3-wicket loss to Ireland. Let's go to soccer now, and in the English Premier League, Leeds is closing in on an unlikely win against Manchester United at Old Trafford. The visitors taking a 2-0 lead early in the second half to stun the home supporters.
Somerville in! The white shirts wheel away in the enemy's backyard!
Audio there thanks to Optus. Well, the NBL finals will begin tonight with the South East Melbourne Phoenix up against the Perth Wildcats. That's the early game before Cairns take on the Tassie Jack Jumpers in the late one. Plenty of golf on this morning with the Victorian Open underway, and South Aussie amateur Jack Buchanan is off to a blistering start, currently 3 under through 3 holes. Nine will be the exclusive broadcaster of the Brisbane 2032 Olympic Games as part of a multi-million-dollar deal with the IOC. Meantime, the UK's Prime Minister has reiterated Russian and Belarusian athletes shouldn't be allowed to compete at next year's Olympics while the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues. And Aussie surfer Jack Robinson has had a shock win over John Florence. That's in the quarterfinals at Pipeline. He's now through to the semis. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
A mortgage-free life awaits with the Hospital Research Foundation Home Lottery. Visit homelottery.com.au.
Quite busy in a few spots already this morning, including South Road at Mile End, also Main North Road at Nottage Terrace. Green Hill, got a diesel spill on Green Hill Road just past Slapes Gully Road. Take care through there. Burst water main slowing things up at Glen Osmond, Port Rush Road near Cross Road. I've got cameras Days Road, Croydon Park and Francis Road at Winkfield. More great specials at Foodland. Delicious, juicy Australian raspberries, only $3 per 125-gram punnet. Hurry, ends tomorrow at Foodland, the mighty South Aussies. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Stay cool. Service your aircon at Automasters. And keep cool with Cool Now, Pay Later options.
A sunny Thursday, 36, sunny tomorrow, 29, Saturday cloud clearing, 26, and Sunday, 25. Right now it's 20 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Building amazing homes is important to Beechwood Homes, and so is the environment. So when you build with Beechwood, you're building a better environment for our kids and grandkids. Here's why. Around 70% of scrap materials from every Beechwood home is recycled. Bricks, rubble, timber, gyprock and steel, none of it goes to landfill. It's all sorted and recycled. So life really is good. It's even better in a Beechwood home. Google Beechwood Adelaide today for a better future for all of us.
Ranella Mazda 2022 plate clearance is on now. Incredible deals across the entire range. And vehicles in stock ready for immediate delivery. Get in quick and don't miss the 2022 plate clearance. Only at Ranella Mazda.
LBD 322 736. David Penberthy and Will Goodings. 5AA Breakfast.
7 minutes after 8, breaking 8 coming up in just a moment. Behind closed doors after 8:30. Coming up this hour, you're going to want to listen to our interview with Sarah Grenold, who's in Turkey, covering on the ground the rescue effort, which is now operating building by building, floor by floor, room by room, person or body by person. That's coming up after 8:30 today. We'll also talk about bulk billing and the future of it in South Australia. Increasingly difficult to find. I bet it's changed at the GP of a number of our listeners as well. If you're lucky enough to still have it, there's a real question mark about how long it's still going to be around. But we'll get into that issue after 8:30 today. First, it's breaking at 8.
Well, amid all the nonsense and name-calling in federal parliament yesterday, including the expulsion of one member, as we just heard with the excellent Matt Abraham, who gave the finger to the Speaker, it's heartening to know that there was at least one politician who had her eye on the ball and was asking questions which related to a hugely important issue, a shameful part of our history in Australia, one which we share with other countries where thousands of people became victims of abuse within the church. Rebecca Sharkey, the member for Mayo, asked what I thought was a really important question. I can't believe how long it's been and how little has happened in a material sense since the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse brought down its findings 10 years ago, 2013. So part of it was there was this thing called the National Redress Scheme, which was designed to provide financial compensation to victims of abuse. Now, the original proposal was a compensation package to victims of $200,000 plus the provision of a gold card. Now, a gold card, veterans listening to this program would know what that is. It helps you cover your medical costs, entitles you to free medical assistance for the distress and in the case of veterans' injuries that they've suffered. So what happened was the Morrison government didn't go quite that far. They adopted a compensation package of up to $150,000, with average compensation to victims being at around the $80,000 mark. But they balked at the idea of providing a gold card. So when Albo got in, the Labor government, they removed the requirement for a statutory declaration for applications, and they also said that they were going to up the amount of compensation that was available. But what's happened, and in part, quite shamefully, it's because of the lack of cooperation from some of the churches in terms of confirming details made by claimants. But people are waiting like 18 months to get this money processed. Gee. And as Rebecca Sharkey said, given what these people have been through, it is totally appalling that money that was promised to them, despite the argument about what the upper limit of that money would be, that hundreds and hundreds of these people 10 years on have still not received a cent by way of compensation for demonstrably appalling treatment. I'd actually be, I'd be convinced that there'd be people listening to this show now who are in that boat. So good on Rebecca Sharkey for drawing attention to it. There was some vagueness around the answer from the relevant minister, Amanda Rishworth, as to what the status of the gold card is. But unfortunately, it still looks like people are going to have to wait as long as 18 months to get any money out of a scheme that was put in place 10 years ago.
Just disgraceful. 11 after 8, some news knocking around this morning. We spoke earlier about the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky flying to the UK to meet with King Charles and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak.
British Parliament, 2 years ago, I thanked you for delicious English tea. And I will be leaving the Parliament today thanking all of you in advance for powerful English planes.
He's just arrived in France, landed in Paris, where he's set to meet President Emmanuel Macron, continuing to try and shore up support for the transfer of planes now to Ukraine. Russia have stated that that would be an unacceptable escalation, but they've said that before, so we'll watch that story fairly closely.
February 24 is the anniversary of Russia invading Ukraine.
Wow, so it's less than 2 weeks away. It's been a full year. It was about this time a year ago then, we were all saying, well, they won't ever do it. It's posturing. When troops were massing at the border and
I remember
it
it
felt
happened,
like posturing.
It happened mid-afternoon on a Thursday. I remember just sitting at home in my study and I was just fixated. Unbelievable that they went ahead and did it.
One of the biggest news stories last year, along with the situation in Ukraine, was one that was very close to home for Australians and cricket fans.
Dear Dad, you were the best dad anyone could have asked for, and you were my best friend. Time with you went way too fast. It feels just like yesterday that we were looking at each other's cards, playing poker, eating pizza and cheering on a multi while watching the Saints. I'm never going to forget how much fun we had doing just simple things. Grocery shopping, watching a movie or going for walks during lockdown. We didn't have to do much for us to be happy together. Life was so easy and peaceful with you in it.
That's Jackson Warne talking about the passing of his father, the great Shane Warne. Some details emerged today about the Warne will, the size of which was pretty breathtaking.
Yeah, $20.7 million estate divided 3 ways, obviously, for the 3 kids, Jackson, Summer and Brooke. 31% to Brooke, 31% to Jackson, 31% to Summer, which in the case of Jackson, his son, Warne also requested that his vehicle collection, which includes a BMW, a Mercedes-Benz and a Yamaha motorbike, which have a combined value of $375,000, that all that goes to Jackson. However wayward and unorthodox a bloke Warne was, you just get the sense that he was just a cracking father. And like, I love that line, you know, cheering on a multi while watching the Saints. Like, a lot of po-faced, button-down types would look at that and go, well, what kind of an example is the father setting to the son in that situation? You know, life's too bloody short, isn't it? Like, you know, as Warne is, sadly, the non-living proof of the fact that life is too short.
Yeah,
his son was 23. You know, good on him.
They had, but the warmth with which he spoke speaks to a relationship that I think a lot of people would be jealous of with their parents. Like, if that's the worst part of it. Bowl reports he was a great father.
Yeah.
The kids all absolutely love him, despite what happened relationship-wise or some of the other oddities in the personal life.
What's Dad been up to now?
Yeah, reading about it in the paper, but they seemed to make it work, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely they did.
The weather today, it's going to be a seriously hot one, top of 36 on the way. Winds are fairly light throughout the day, peaking at 15 to 25 k's an hour in the late evening, so that gives you some sense of what a nice day we've got on the way. Fuel Watch is not too bad this morning. Find the cheapest fuel in an instant. Download the free MyRA app from your app store today. The cheap spots we've found, the ex-convenience Aldershot Road, Lonsdale, $1.77.5 The BP on the Run, Kingston Road, Erindale's $1.71.9. That's pretty nice. The Ampol South Road, Wingfield $1.77.9, and the cheapest diesel is the United Main North Road, Paraka at $1.88.5. Peter in Woodville has called into the program. Morning to you, Peter.
Morning, boys. It's like waking up today, the famous Bill Lorry word. It's all happening. Very bad what's happening in the world.
Yeah, it is, Peter.
What I rang you to tell you, I was working in the East End Market in the mid-'80s, and my boss went to his neighbour's birthday party on the east side of Hutt Street, and you reckon you'd never guess who was there. I'll give you a clue. YMCA.
The village people.
The village people. He flew him in, a prominent Adelaide businessman. I can tell you his name. I think he's passed on because I think it was his 50th birthday.
Who
you
was
imagine walking in? Eh?
Who you said you were going to say the name, Peter?
The name of the guy that flew him in, the prominent businessman.
Hmm.
But you imagine going to the party and you see a construction worker, you'd think, what in the hell's going on this hour of the night? and you see a cop come out the room, you'd think, bloody hell, this is all happening already.
Yeah, I think once the Indian arrived, you'd realise that things... It's either the village people or a very strange evening indeed.
There was no phones in that era to take recording of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Peter,
exactly.
Thank you. Appreciate the memory, Peter Woodville. We're talking a bit about music and experiences in the 80s. Simon and Garfunkel appeared on this day in Adelaide, played at the Adelaide Oval in 1983. We've been talking about the fact that Pink has joined a very small group of international artists who's deigned to put Adelaide on the tour list. So
Good on you, Pink.
We are big supporters of Pink this morning too.
Hey, good text here from one of our listeners. Didn't leave their name, but a good question, Will, and I think you should raise with your other bosses. Why do all men reading the news have to wear suits?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't Will wear a turtleneck for comfort? Because he famously did on a Peter Shearer Thursday. You were kidded out. You look like a beat poet.
I'll just lob this one up for you.
Allen Ginsberg was co-hosting the program.
What do you think it says about the news coverage if I did wear a turtleneck on 7? I mean, what's your instant impression if you flick over and see that?
That it's 1969? Good evening. I'm Will Goodings.
Look, I'm all for the relaxation of the suit element. If the turtleneck is what's being proffered as the alternative, then I'm kind of happy to stick with the suit, however.
Hey, Luce, who has done a fantastic job here archiving. I'm holding in my hands on her phone. Well, I think we should tweet that. Let's tweet it.
I think we destroyed all those photos, didn't we?
No, you might have destroyed them.
I think it was in my contract with Nova Entertainment that they were getting destroyed.
We got one of those forensic IT people in to recover them.
I'm not happy with this.
I'm looking now at the photograph of Will wearing the Peter Shearer blazer and turtleneck combo, and mate, I got to say, be still my foolish heart. I could almost go you wearing that gear.
That's the Occupy Wall Street version of you, isn't it? I look like I'm about to, read something from Writers' Week.
Yeah, that's right. Howl. Well, that was the famous beat poem, wasn't it, by Allen Ginsberg?
Have you had your fun?
I have.
Okay, good. Let's check traffic. A mortgage-free life awaits with the Hospital Research Foundation Home Lottery. Visit homelottery.com.au.
Thanks, Will. Green Hill, got a diesel spill on Green Hill Road just past Slapes Gully Road. Take care through there. Glen Osmond, Burst Watermain, Port Rice Road near Crossroads. Speeds out at 25. Very heavy delays if you can avoid that this morning. Also slow going at Bedford Park. Hive of activity with works continuing on the Southern Expressway. Speeds reduced. And we've got cameras, McGill Road, McGill and South Terrace in the city. Who hopes you rise against rising interest rates? The refinancier is from Aussie. Let's talk home loans at aussie.com.au or come in store today. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Everyday low prices, any time of year. Trust the mighty South Aussies. Great food lives here. Foodland. The mighty South Aussies, yeah. Foodland. The mighty South.
You're watching the 5AA live stream thanks to Foodland.
Mighty South Aussies, yeah.
5AA.
Love signs, baby.
This
This slowdown song is to remind you that you're now entering a school zone and will need to slow down. A safety message from the Australian Road Safety Foundation and Amy.
Hello, Frank Walker from National Tiles. Professional tilers rely on National Tiles to consistently offer the very latest in tiling tools and fixing systems to make laying tiles easier, more productive and profitable. Yes, National Tiles consistently offer innovation in tiling tools and fixing systems, making laying tiles easier, more productive and profitable for professional tilers every day of the year. National Tiles, #1 with the very best professional tilers.
Hello, I'm Lynn Andrews. At Lynn Andrews Real Estate, we've seen a lot of change in the property market over the last 50 years, but one thing remains constant: our passion to help people invest in the future, to build strong property portfolios in commercial and residential real estate. Our commitment to property investment over the years means we have a wealth of knowledge to share with you. We are here to help. Visit lynnandrews.com. How
you feeling, Dad? Hanging in well. I've got the bloke who won last year in my sights, up there with the yellow and blue top.
Mate, I'm pretty sure that top's purple. And that's Susie.
Give yourself the gift of great vision at Laser Vision SA. Smile Pro is the latest technology available at Laser Vision SA. Faster, silent and even more comfortable. Only at Laser Vision SA. Start seeing your world clearly without glasses or contacts. Visit laservisionsa.com.au.
The Southgate GWM and Haval 22 plate clearance is on now. Incredible deals across the range and vehicles in stock ready for immediate delivery. Be quick, don't miss the 22 plate clearance. Only at Southgate GWM, Main South Road, Brunella.
LVD 152780.
For more than 10 years, Brenton Raglas and Kate Collins have brought you all the big stories on 9 News.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings. This is 5AA Breakfast.
23 minutes after 8, a couple of big school stories broke last night. Wanted to check in with the Education Minister, Blair Boyer, about a fight and indeed a return to COVID policy that I think might surprise some people without school-aged children. Minister, good morning to you.
Good morning to you both.
Let's start with the really ugly scenes. We had some pictures on 7 News last night of the Wyler Secondary School fight, Minister. I think important to note, this is one of the schools, was it not, where the phone ban had not yet come in. It was coming in later this year?
That's correct. The school's working on when they introduce it at the moment. I had a conversation with the principal yesterday just to see how they were going there. But yes, no, it hasn't commenced, but they're keen to get it in place, and we're going to, I guess, fast track it is the word, because the feedback that we're getting from those sort of 30% of our public schools with secondary enrolments already in the first couple of weeks is seeing some really positive improvements, not just in the classroom in terms of distraction, which you'd expect, but sort of in the schoolyard as well, because we're banning them from recess and lunch. So they've seen a bit more physical activity, kids playing sport, kids just talking to each other instead of being on the phones. But also I think we're seeing a reduction in some of the really negative behaviour you get with smartphones and use of social media in the school setting.
I got to say, Minister, I feel sorry for these schools when it ends up becoming a story. And these days it's so easy for almost anything to become a story, thanks to social media and the fact that you'll get, 30 people on Facebook talking about an incident. But how does a school cope when it becomes, and it feels like almost every school gets its turn from time to time. We saw it with Golden Grove, which has done a great job getting on top of the trouble that they had. But it must be hard for schools to manage these things when they're being played out in the public arena.
Exactly right, David. And also, I don't want to diminish the seriousness of the incidents, because anyone who's watched them would see, it's distressing to watch, I've got to say. They're hard to watch because they are really violent. But I tell you, the impact on the school communities and the people who don't just send their kids to the schools, but also the principals and classroom teachers can't be overstated. And I speak to them regularly after incidents like this occur, and it is like a punch in the guts for them.
Because we had fights at my school in the 80s, but they weren't on television. No one had phones to film them with. And however ragged things got in the schoolyard with bullying and so forth, from 3:30 onwards, everyone was at home, and it wasn't like you could log on to something to watch the fight continuing in cyberspace overnight.
That's exactly right. And then the school I went to in the 90s, I remember a few fights that were quite violent, but you're right, there was no one there filming them. And I've observed, David, on a few occasions since the last year we've been talking about this violence in schools, is that back then, most people could sort of retreat to the sanctuary of home and mum and dad, and not everyone could do that, but most couldn't get away from the bullies. And now you can't. It doesn't start at 9 a.m. bell and finish at the 3 or 3:30 bell. These kids who are getting sort of pursued through social media platforms or bullied that way, it's 24/7 for them, and it's no wonder the effect that we're having on young people's mental health and things like anxiety, because they can't get away from it. And if they're the victim of one of these acts, it's being shared everywhere, and you can hear the bystanders with the phones. They're not there recording it so they can take it to the police station. They're egging them on, cheering them on and laughing and saying, bash him, get him harder, so they can put it straight on TikTok. And then the victim has to not only live with being violently assaulted at school, but they know that everyone in the schoolyard has seen it because it's been shared around, and long after the incident's occurred, it's still there.
Minister, I was intrigued to hear about the story of Blackwood High School as well, where there's been some mask wearing reintroduced, and indeed also one class has been told not to come to school because of an outbreak of COVID there. Are they an outlier, or are there a number of schools operating under these conditions at the moment in South Australia?
They are an outlier, but I think it shows that it's really still out there. It's a cautionary tale for all of us, including me as the minister, because, we looked at whether or not we would keep the same COVID settings in place for the start of this year. And I've said it publicly a number of times to staff and students that I'm looking forward to a year that's more like the ones we remember before COVID, but it shows it's still there. And I'm glad we kept these settings, which is sort of, once you get more than 10 positive cases in a class, that class goes on what we call a circuit breaker, so remote learning, which is what we've had across the last couple of years, and I think it's worked well. But I accept that it probably comes as a surprise to a lot of listeners who thought we might be past that these things can still flare up. But it is certainly an outlier at the moment. But we watch the daily stats still. As soon as I get that email, I open it and have a very close look to see how we're trending across the system.
Is there a rule that the Education Department has got in place, Minister, about if a student does get COVID, how many days they need to take off?
I have to check what that is at the moment, but if they have got COVID, they can't be, if they're a positive case, they can't be at school. But the circuit breakers we have in place are for the 10 in a class, which is what's happening at Blackwood, so that that triggers a circuit breaker and they go home. But it's also 5 cases in 5 different classrooms at the one site would trigger the whole site wearing masks for 2 weeks. That's what we've had in the last couple of years. We don't have any sites doing it at the moment. I hope we don't get there, but they're the settings that we have kept from the last 2 years, just in case we get an outbreak like we've had at Blackwood, so that we can try to knock it on the head as fast as we can. Because if we don't do that, you get spread right across a school and across a community.
Good stuff. Education Minister Blair Boyer, thanks for joining us this morning.
28 minutes after 8, 5AA News is coming up. I encourage you to stick around after the break. We're going to chat with Sarah Greenoch, who's on the ground in Turkey, covering this extraordinary rescue effort that's ongoing every moment we speak, where people, at the best case scenario, bodies in the worst case scenario, being extracted from the thousands upon thousands of buildings across that country that have collapsed. Sarah Greenoch from 7 News is next.
G'day, it's Eddie May from NRG Solar. More and more South Australians are taking control of their energy bills with solar and battery storage. In fact, Australians are taking up battery storage in record numbers because they're sick of rising power bills and being locked into a system where someone else calls the shots. The other huge bonus of going with NRG Solar and battery storage is that you'll be protected from blackouts with an uninterrupted power supply. Take control. Visit nrgsolar.com.au.
There's no blueprints to your new custom-built Beechwood home. Well, not yet anyway. But together with Beechwood, it won't take long to turn your ideas into sketches, then drawings, and finally a home you can live a beautiful life in. That's the really exciting thing about building with Beechwood Homes. They'll build the home you want. So collect your thoughts, your ideas, your Pinterest boards, whatever, and let's talk. Because life's good. It's even better in a Beechwood home.
This is Adelaide's FIVEAA.
Sunny and 36 today with the 8:30 news. I'm Mel Usher.
Keep your body in shape with Physio Extra clinical Pilates and group exercise classes. PhysioExtra.com.
Police have seized several cannabis crops across the state. Kendall Brettig has the details.
A 38-year-old man's been arrested after a cannabis grow house was uncovered at Virginia. Police raided the King Road property after a tip-off, finding around 100 cannabis plants being grown hydroponically. Electricity was also being illegally diverted to the house. He's been charged with cultivating a commercial quantity of cannabis and will face court next month. While a hidden grow room full of cannabis plants was discovered at Jamestown in the state's mid-north, along with an explosive device and gel blasters. A 48-year-old man is facing a range of charges. And at Port Pirie South, a 41-year-old man's been arrested following a cannabis seizure. Police found 7 mature cannabis plants growing in the backyard. A further search uncovered a laser pointer and drug paraphernalia.
Chinese-made security devices will be removed as soon as possible from government buildings. Close to 1,000 surveillance cameras, intercoms and electronic entry systems are operating across sites including the Defence and Foreign Affairs. There are concerns they could be feeding data to Chinese intelligence agencies. Defence Minister Richard Marles says the government will take action, but it's important the process isn't rushed.
It is right to be focused on it. We do need to be thinking about the security of our defence estate. And so we're going through the process in a sober, calm way, and we're going to remove what cameras exist.
The death toll continues to rise following this week's earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. It's now past 12,000. 4 Australians are unaccounted for. Distributing aid and getting extra hands on the ground is proving difficult. The Turkish President's Special Advisor Ibrahim Kalin says it's a disaster zone.
How many people can you bring in? The devastation is widespread, and where do you go? If you have 100 helicopters, you land them in 100 places, but there are 20,000 collapsed buildings. Which one do you send the helicopter to?
Prosecutors have paused their probe into the downing of flight MH17, but say Russia's president is implicated in the disaster. Carrie-Anne Greenbank has more.
International investigators say there are strong indications that Russian President Vladimir Putin personally approved the transfer of the Russian missile system that shot down MH17. Prosecutors say they have evidence a specific request was made to President Putin and approved to supply the Russian-backed separatists in the Donetsk region with heavy anti-aircraft weaponry. MH17 was shot down in 2014, killing all 298 people on board. But investigators say they don't have enough evidence for a criminal prosecution of the president or his officials, and under Dutch law, Vladimir Putin has immunity while he remains head of state.
And the contents of Shane Warne's will have been made public, the Spin King leaving the majority of his $20 million estate to his children. Warne died in March 2022. Now turning to 5AA Sport.
Gliderall Garage Doors, adding strength, safety and style to South Australian homes for over 40 years. Gliderall.com.au.
Here's Tom Wren.
Thank you, Mel. Let's start with footy. Port Adelaide forward Charlie Dixon has expressed his desire to play well beyond 2023. The 32-year-old is out of contract at season's end, but has told Rowie and Timmy G he feels he can play well beyond this season and that coach Ken Hinkley thinks he can as well.
That's what Ken always tells me anyway.
Yeah.
He said you've still got a few years left and, well, yeah, they want to keep me around, so hopefully that's the plan.
Meantime, outgoing Gold Coast Suns chairman Tony Cochrane is again warning those behind the push for a Tasmanian AFL side are in for a tough time. While supportive of a 19th side, he's told Wide World of Sports it's off-the-field administrators that are in for a tough time.
You immediately come up against sides like the Collingwoods, the Richmonds, etc. of this world that have got 120, 30, 40 years of history. They've got, 100,000 members. They've got terrific balance sheets. They can afford to hire the best staff.
To cricket, Australia will finalise its 11 at the toss this afternoon when the first test between Australia and India gets underway in Nagpur. Spinner Todd Murphy is a big chance to make his test debut. Let's go to soccer. Manchester United has come from 2 goals down to force a 2-2 draw against Leeds. The Red Devils scoring twice in the final half hour to salvage a point.
Clever from Shaw, who gets it back from Sancho. And Sancho again in! The Leeds lead extinguished.
Audio there thanks to Optus. The result leaves United in 3rd place, while Leeds is now 1 point clear of the relegation zone. And that's the 5AA Sport.
Now checking 5AA traffic.
A mortgage-free life awaits with the Hospital Research Foundation Home Lottery. Visit homelottery.com.au.
At Green Hill, look out for a diesel spill on Green Hill Road, just past Slapes Gully Road. Take care through there, pretty slippery at the moment. Glen Osmond, Burst Watermain, Port Rice Road near Crossroads, speeds out at 25. Very heavy delays, avoid if you can on the drive in. Busy right now, Port Wakefield Road at Jeps Cross, also Main North Road at Nottage Terrace, and got cameras Days Road, Croydon Park, and East Terrace in the city. Don't miss the end of season Drummond Golf half-price store-wide clothing clearance on now. No exceptions. Shop in-store or online at drummondgolf.com.au. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
Now the 5AA forecast.
Stay cool. Service your aircon at Automasters. And keep cool with Cool Now, Pay Later options.
36 today and sunny tomorrow 29, Saturday cloud clearing 26. Right now it's 22 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
For over 38 years, Steinborner has been well worth the trip. With over 400 used cars to choose from, you're sure to find the car you're looking for. You won't find a better range of cars covering the entire region from Gawler to the Barossa Valley and Clare. And don't forget, you can always click through the collection of vehicles online at steinborner.com.au. Great local deals on great local cars from your locals. Steinborner Automotive. Still well worth the trip or well worth the click.
5AA Breakfast is streaming live right now. To watch, simply head online to 5AA Facebook or search 5AA on YouTube. David Penberthy and Will Goodings. This is 5AA Breakfast.
We're going to head to Turkey now, where overnight the death toll has reached 5 figures. Sarah Grenolch has been reporting for Channel 7. Sarah, good morning to you. We can hear some sirens in the background there. Just describe for us what the latest is.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, these sirens are constant. They have been going right throughout the day. At the moment, I'm standing in the city of Iskenderun, which is in southern Turkey. It's on the Mediterranean coast, in front of several collapsed buildings. It is so hard to fathom the scale of this disaster. But what I will tell you about is what we have been so lucky to witness today. Not one, but 2 rescues of survivors. So the first one happened at 4 p.m. local time this afternoon. This is Wednesday afternoon. You've got to remember the quake hit on Monday morning at 4 a.m. We went over to this building. There was a search and rescue operation going on, mostly involving volunteers and civilians because they are not specialists. And they told us there were 11 people under there, but they just found someone alive. So for the next 1.5 hours, there was this frantic but delicate operation. They were calling for shovels. They were removing rubble piece by piece. And then this moment that I don't think anyone who was here will ever forget, I certainly will not, when they found this woman alive. They pulled her out after 60 hours beneath the rubble. She was calling out for her son. She was conscious. And then 2 hours later, there was a second rescue 2 doors down. Of course, they don't look like buildings anymore, but just down the road, this other woman, a 47-year-old, she was pulled out conscious by a different rescue team, put into a waiting ambulance. Her sister-in-law was on site, spoke to one of the rescuers afterwards, and he said that she was conscious enough to say thank you to her saviour. It pulled her out 62 hours on from this quake. So it was absolutely remarkable. They are rare stories. The more common experience is bodies being retrieved, and we have seen countless bodies being moved, pulled out from these buildings, body bags left on the street. They're so stretched, the crews here, the volunteers, that they just can't get around to collect all these bodies in time. So they're lying here in blankets or in body bags until someone can get to them. And the most tragic thing that we heard firsthand today was just around the corner from these rescues. There was this volunteer who looked so traumatised. He had just found a baby, the baby's mother clinging on to the baby, and then they kept digging further and they found the father who had been trying to shield both the mother and the baby. All 3 were dead. They'd removed them, and then they had to leave their bodies on the side of the road to wait for more volunteers to come and pick them up. So it is absolutely tragic here, and this is a scene being repeated across southern Turkey and in Syria.
That's just horrible. Sarah, how long is this rescue operation going to go on for? Because as you said, Wednesday afternoon in Turkey, the quakes happened on Monday. There would still be people who are alive, and I imagine how hard would it be to say to families who are desperate for news of their loved ones, we're just going to have to stop it. I imagine they'd want to keep going for as long as they can.
Oh, and this is the thing. It's now, I think it's about 10:30 at night here, and you've probably heard that massive digger just go past me while we've been talking, because the rescue operation is still undergoing. They've got some floodlights here. No one is giving up hope, or at least on this street where we are. I'm sure there are other areas where they have determined that it's simply been too long. And you have to remember the other thing is how cold it is. It's it feels like temperature at the moment is 1 degree here where I am, but in Gaziantep and other areas closer to the mountains, it's well below zero. It's snowing the other day as well. So usually the window for finding survivors in quakes, according to the experts, is about 72 hours. I never in a million years thought that we would witness firsthand people being pulled out alive today. When it happened, it was just imagine the psychological strength you would need to be under that rubble for 2.5 full days and 2 freezing nights. And to see that was just something that I hope I will never see again. The scale of this disaster, like I said, is just so hard to fathom, because we're in one city in the hardest hit province, but it's by no means being called the hardest hit city. There's places that are being deemed to be far worse than this, and from what we're seeing, it's hard to imagine anything that could be worse. And to give you a bit of an idea of what else is going on here, so a couple of k's away, there's this massive port fire, which you may have seen pictures of over the past few days, which has been burning since the quake on Monday morning. So that is still going on. We had a Russian water bomber fly over us at one stage this afternoon. Then the intensive care unit of this big public hospital has also collapsed. So there's a mission going on there. The sirens, again, you might be able to hear them in the background as 4A is through. It's so chaotic. I don't think any government anywhere would have a handbook on how to deal with something like this. The scale is so immense, the destruction is so widespread. And then also, you've got to remember it's also happening in Syria, and it's so hard for media crews to actually access that area, given that it's being controlled by rebels, given the civil war that has been going on there for almost 12 years now. So this isn't just happening in one country, it's happening in two.
Turkish president made that point precisely, saying just simply cannot ever be prepared for a disaster of this scale. Sarah, incredible report. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Sarah Greenhalgh for 7 News in Turkey. Got to say, the images that accompany Sarah's reporting are some of the hardest to watch. I don't know what it is about this particular disaster. I don't know if it's the proliferation of phone technology now has just reached a critical mass where every little moment is captured, or we've got different... The things people choose to take pictures of and show, maybe sensibilities have changed, but my God, just some of the images out of this disaster, among the worst I've ever seen.
Well,
the most heart-wrenching I've ever seen, I'll say, put it that way.
I would never suggest that people who don't have kids aren't capable of feeling empathy, because I think that there are people who don't have kids who are more empathetic in some cases than people who do. But I do think, like your personal circumstances, mate, remember last year when you said...
Correct. I'm happy to say we did a story on the news the other night, and we used to always joke that I was the Iceman, and I kind of was. But there was this. I struggle to even talk about it now, but it was on the news the other night, and having to come back and read a story after it, and I thought I'm not going to be able to do this to the point that we sort of, Rosanna and I started distracting ourselves last night during the pictures, because we've literally got a job to do. But I just find some of it harrowing, and you're right. You have something obviously clicks in your brain when you have a child. Despite what you were like beforehand.
I think what it does is there are moments where something becomes particularly relatable.
Yes.
And you start, your mind wanders into a personal space, and you think, oh, what if that was me?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's as we said, plenty of people without kids feel exactly the same
Absolutely.
way. But sometimes it can get you in a unique way, and you can't shake it.
Yeah, for a lot of people. And something about this disaster too is just we feel so close to it, weirdly.
Yeah.
There's some of the individual stories, usually they're numbers, but there's so many individual stories that are being told that are just awful. All right, let's check traffic. A mortgage-free life awaits with the Hospital Research Foundation Home Lottery. Visit homelottery.com.au.
We've got traffic lights on the blink this morning at Ottaway. That's Grand Junction Road at Eastern Parade. Green Hill, you find a diesel spill, Green Hill Road just past Slapes Gully Road. Pretty slippery there, so take it nice and easy. While at Glen Osmond, Burst Watermain, Port Rush Road near Cross Road. Speeds down to 25. Really heavy lanes at the moment. Avoid if you can. Busy right now, South Road at Mile End with a camera. Days Road at Regency Park. Need some space? Right now at 40 Winks, get any size mattress at the price of a single, plus earn double Qantas points. Limited time only. T's and C's apply. 40 Winks, serious about sleep. Adelaide's most accurate traffic on 5AA.
A day after the state government announced more graduate nurses for our health system, SA Pathology announced nursing jobs will be cut. The Nursing Federation understandably isn't happy about that. I'm Matthew Pantelis. That's one of the stories we'll look at after 9 on 5AA Mornings.
How special that only 50 years ago we finally ventured to the moon. And for the very first time, looked back at our planet in awe. And what did we see? A director's chair for only $59.99.
Ground control, it's beautiful.
With a strong and lightweight aluminium and steel frame and a detachable hardtop insulated cooler. It's special you can buy at the caravanning sale this Saturday at Aldi. In store while stocks last. Good. Different.
The Hospital Research Foundation Home Lottery is back with millions of dollars in prizes to be won. You could be our next big winner. This is your chance to live the dream mortgage-free in the $3.5 million grand prize in Henley Beach. Every ticket sold fights for cures and improved care in hospitals across South Australia. To see full lottery details and get your tickets, visit homelottery.com.au today. Licence M14311.
Gliderol has manufactured and installed garage doors in SA since 1974, and their commitment to quality is as strong as ever. If it's time for a new look for your home or to upgrade, do it now. Order a new roller door, sectional door or customer designer door with operator by the 28th of February and receive an extended operator warranty plus 2 bonus handsets. Call for a free measure and quote and helpful advice. Visit gliderol.com.au today. Retail customers only. T's and C's apply.
Patience pays off, especially if you've been holding out for a great deal on a new Volkswagen. Mawson Lakes Volkswagen is now receiving truckloads of new Volkswagens. Yes, they're coming. And they're available at amazing prices. Remember Mawson Lakes Volkswagen for servicing too, with next day servicing and free loan cars. Get a great deal on Volkswagen now. Don't dilly-dally, dawdle or delay. Mawson Lakes Volkswagen, just a short drive from the city.
For more than 10 years, Brenton Raglas and Kate Collins have brought you all the big stories on 9 News.
David Penberthy and Will Goodings, 5AA Breakfast.
12 minutes to 9. Getting a lot of turtleneck-related content coming through on the Dutton's text line. Dutton's a third-generation family-owned dealership with over 70 years' experience. Dutton's easy to do business with. This is your work, Penberthy.
Well, all I did was make one mention, and I in my defence, I read out one text on the Dutton's line from a listener suggesting the turtleneck replace the suit. Since then, the listeners and viewers have taken it upon themselves. Well, people have sent in pictures of Ron Burgundy wearing his trademark fragrant Sex Panther and the beige/bone-coloured turtleneck. Another one here of is it Rob Stitch? Is it Mike Moore?
Good night.
A lot of groundswell for the turtleneck. If the fashionistas and fluffers who take care of Will in the hot seat every evening at 5 p.m. are listening, I'd say just rummage around in the back of the wardrobe. You never know what you might find.
Twitter's broken at the moment, apparently.
Yeah, you hacked it.
Yeah, it was my fault. I texted Elon Musk and I said, when this turtleneck picture is not going up,
do us a solid, Elon.
Elon, come on. You know what to do. And so far, it looks like he's complying. So with a bit of luck, that one won't see the light of day. Some distressing news in the Tizer this morning about the future of bulk billing GPs. We've seen a decline already. Doubtless we've got listeners who have seen that their GP previously having bulk billed has ceased to do so. The decline last year was marked 89.4% to 83.4% in the year to 2022. But the drop is likely to be dramatic. The Royal Australian College of General Practitioners warning that half of all GP practices are likely to stop bulk billing by July. half. Dr. Nicole Higgins is the president of the Royal Australian College of GPs. Dr. Higgins, good morning to you.
Good morning, and I'm in North Queensland, so turtlenecks really are not a fashion item.
I'll tell you something.
You'd feel like you're a walking terrarium if you had one of them in FNQ.
They're not a fashion item here, I can tell you either.
Not yet, but watch this space. Hey, Dr. Higgins, we've spoken a lot on our show about the difficulties attracting GPs, even to places that aren't even rural. Like we've got a situation here in a small town in the Adelaide Hills where they've had all sorts of dramas getting GPs to work there. The rebate has basically become frozen in time, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. And I think the first thing is people really don't understand, what a rebate is and what bulk billing is. So the Medicare rebate is what you get back from the government when you've seen a doctor. So it belongs to the patient, not your GP. What bulk billing means is that if they accept that rebate as full payment, that is bulk billing. And what's happened is it simply hasn't kept up with the cost of providing care. And it's still frozen effectively. So it did go up last year, 1.6%, but we know that the cost of inflation was 7.8%, and GP practices have to pay wages, rent, electricity, etc. And, a 65 cent increase just doesn't cover the cost of it. So that's now being passed on to patients, and bulk billing is dropping significantly.
What other factors are causing these dramas? I mean, you think there's just been manifest over the last few years. COVID obviously put heaps of pressure on GPs in terms of demand. We're constantly being told not to go to emergency if you can avoid it. We've got an ageing population, meaning that there's more people with chronic but survivable conditions that require frequent visits to the GP. It really is an issue or a battle that's being fought on several fronts, isn't it?
It is, a crisis across the whole health system. I think what's happened is general practice has been subsidising it for a long time and have actually just said, look, we can't do this anymore. And there's a shortage in pharmacy, there's a shortage in nurses, allied health, and what happens is that if we don't prevent things happening in the first place, if they're not dealt with in general practice, then it ends up in hospital waiting rooms and ramping of ambulances. So we need to make sure that we're investing, spending that money in general practice, in primary care, and versus keep, spending more and more on really expensive hospitals.
Is the economic circumstance that leads to bulk billing rates reducing a contributor to the shortage of GPs in Australia at the moment, or are they unrelated issues?
It's very related. GPs feel very undervalued and underfunded, and what we're finding is that medical graduates just don't want to do general practice. They can go off and spend the same amount of time studying and become a cardiologist or rheumatologist and earn twice as much and not have general practice is hard slog. I love it. We do great things, but I think people don't actually understand what we do and how we do it because we just tend to do it very quietly in the background. But now it's broken, they can actually see the consequences of not funding.
Do you think, this is almost verboten even raising it, given the whole premise of Medicare is universal healthcare, free healthcare for all. Has there been any talk about some sort of means testing though?
Yeah, so Medicare was never about being free from the start. It was when it was set up 40 years ago. It was set up as an insurance scheme to subsidise care, and over time, bulk billings evolved. My concern is if we actually don't fund, general practice and primary care well, we're going to end up with a two-tier system where those who've got money pay, can pay for care, and it's going back to the old days. And so what happens as a GP is we often make the decision, oh, look, that person probably can afford to pay, we'll bill them, that person we know can't. So we tend to, play Robin Hood a little bit And that's not okay either. We need to make sure that everybody is able to access care and that care is affordable.
No, massive issue, and one that we'll continue to cover. Dr. Nicole Higgins in Far North Queensland, not wearing a turtleneck, President of the Royal Australian College of GPs. Thanks for that, Doc.
Cheers, thanks.
5 minutes to 9.
Mark from Newton's texted in saying turtlenecks peaked in the late 60s when Steve McQueen played the role of Frank Bullitt wearing a shoulder holster over a turtleneck. And thanks to Andrew from Rosedale for sending in the picture of Mr. Burns wearing a turtleneck.
Steve McQueen made it work.
See my vest. Steve McQueen, yeah. You can do that.
No.
You pull off.
No.
Bullitt, great movie.
Absolutely. All right, let's go behind closed doors. Thanks to Aussie Fast Transport Solutions, interstate freight, distribution, warehousing and local Adelaide couriers. Call Aussie Fast on 13 13 64.
And when we get behind closed...
SA's greatest rivalry on radio, the 5AA Sports Show, Rowie and Timmy G.
Yeah, here we are. Welcome along to the Sports Show and my co-host Stephen Rowe. How are you, my friend?
I'm really angry, Timmy G.
Well, I'll tell you what, my friend, there's a lot to talk about in sport this afternoon, isn't there?
Oh, I am filthy.
Really?
I am, Timmy G. I can't believe Man City. This is the biggest story in the history of stories.
Well, it's certainly a big one.
They've been cheating for 10 years.
Well, that's the...
Those cheating, filthy, underhanded...
Well, I've been accused of some very dubious dealings.
Dubious? They've been keeping 2 sets of books, Timmy G, so they can cheat, and they should be kicked out of the EPL immediately.
Really?
No questions asked, just get rid of them, and that Abu Dhabi prince, you cheating, thieving, despicable sod.
Strong words, Rowie.
Systematic cheating and secret payments from a sheik and total disregard for the laws and rules of the game.
Well, yeah, well, we should...
And they should be sent straight back to the 4th Division, and then you have to work your way back up for the next 5 years.
Wow.
Go and get stuffed, you cheating, sheiking, princing, Abu Dhabi, scum-swallowing, boorish chaffweed.
What's that?
I looked that up on synonyms.com.
Oh, right.
You can't just find them, Timmy G, because that billionaire sheik will just go along to his daddy and say, Daddy, give us another $1 billion, we're going to get fined, so kick him out, Timmy G.
Yeah, well, that's...
They just run their own race, these royal sheiks, because they just buy themselves out of every problem they have, those scum-sucking, cheating, misbegotten gullions. Yeah, I didn't understand that one when I wrote it down, but I liked how it sounded.
Well, look, Stephen, we just need...
Those rotten, cheating sods!
I think we just need to point out and clear up the fact that they haven't actually been found guilty of anything yet.
Oh, too late to dump.
You can't dump that much.
No, you can't.
Hey, what about this 19-year-old woman in Brazil? Have you seen her?
No.
She's Brazil's own Chappelle Corby. Remarkable. She's been caught in Bali with 3 kilos of cocaine.
Where was hers accidentally?
Oh, yeah,
concealed?
no, she says she's a victim of someone put it there. Has anyone ever been caught?
3 kilos is a
Actually,
lot.
no, that is mine.
No, I wouldn't have thought. Matthew Pantelis is coming up. We're out of time. We'll catch you for Meat Tray Friday tomorrow from 6 o'clock.
At Bunnings Trade, you'll find amazing value on big brands like Makita, DeWalt and Paslode. And if you find a lower price, we'll beat it by 10%. Bunnings Trade, helping business is our trade. Price guarantee applies